What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 7 Mick. Chapter 166 Revolutionary Long. Storm Force. Secure Asset Portal. Your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. In just a blink of an eye, the Sword Master Bickley struck the crow in front of him with a slash that penetrated the world. With a bang, the powerful sword intention broke through the sky. The black crows that were densely packed in the sky before were all dissolved by the sword in an instant and turned into a pool of blood mist. Crows fell from the sky one after another, and the whole ground was covered with crows' blood. The commander of the Northern Army, Crow, had cold sweat on his forehead. The man in front of him had such terrifying combat power. The slashing wave he just released, definitely above Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman. After the sword master broke through the crow mask in front of him, what he saw was a stream of flame cannonballs, pouring down on him. The corners of Sword Master Bickley's mouth curled up slightly, showing a very disdainful expression. He murmured. Your revolutionary army, before this guy Yi Yu appeared, was called the enemy that the world government wanted to kill most. Wouldn't it be just this little level? Trying to defeat me with this little trick is simply a fantasy. Clay had a look of contempt on his face, and then the light on his body flourished, and the armed body protection actually used his body to resist all these shells. Fire bombs exploded on Bickley's body, producing a lot of thick smoke, but Bickley's body was unscathed, and Bickley didn't even bother to wave a knife to resist. The commander of the Southern District Army frowned. These bombs were not ordinary bombs. Knowing that the technology number 8 he had made through special experiments, he thought that although he could not hurt Bickley, he could at least force the Sword Master to carry out the attack. Defense, but looking at it now, this Sword Master's defense is so abnormal. It is so powerful that even the armor-colored shells attached to his own characteristics have no effect on it. Don't underestimate us, Sword Master. Sabo didn't know when he had flown into the sky. The iron rod in his hand became extremely black, and he swung it hard at the Sword Master. Bickley curled his lips, but still did not use his holy sword, but only used his left hand to resist. Boom. The dark iron rod collided with Bickley's left arm, producing terrifying energy. Sabo's eyes widened. His full-strength attack, which was accompanied by a physical dragon energy attack, was easily resisted by the middle-aged man in front of him. And the most terrifying thing was that he hadn't tried his best, because Sabo could feel when he came out, the man in front of him was in a very relaxed state. Sure enough, just for a moment, the Sword Master Bickley exerted force on his left arm, and a terrifying force like a beast appeared. Sabo, even with the advantage of being in the air and the strength of his hands, could not resist this terrifying force, and it was directly hit hard and flew out. Boy, your physical skills are pretty good, but you still need some heat. Bickley commented, without any fluctuation on his face, with a calm look on his face. At the moment when Bickley and Sabo were in a stalemate, two more terrifying forces came from the east, west, left and right directions. Moreover, they were also blessed by two red rays of light, making their strength and speed faster. Taking advantage of the gap between Bickley's attacks, two terrifying figures approached Bickley in an instant. One of these two people was the Demon King Ivankov, and the other was the leader of the Revolutionary Army, the Revolutionary Long. Ivankov, in order to defeat the Juggernaut, actually gave himself a potion, and in an instant the Monster King's leg muscles became extremely strong. Go to hell, let you try my death-kicking skills. Ivankov, the Demon King, was located in the sky. With the help of the inertia just now, in an instant, with the help of the influence of the potion, he actually kicked out a more terrifying attack than hitting pizza. A touch. The kick with high heels hit Bickley's left arm. Bickley activated his arm domineering energy, and even had a ball of white holy aura, barely able to withstand the attack from the She-Monster King. The next moment, the real protagonist, the Revolutionary Long, takes action. Good job, Long shouted. The attack just now may not seem like anything in the eyes of others, but in his own eyes, it has forced the Sword Master to use an arm and arm domineering force. Now the Sword Master I can only fight with myself with one arm and the rest of my unstable breath. As his own master and teacher, Garp once told himself that the difference between a truly unrivaled strong man's battle can be divided into 1.5 moves, especially domineering. At the moment when domineering is released, the human body will have a certain period of restlessness. The haki used during this period will be very unstable, and the release of pure haki will be increased, and the combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced. Long seized this gap and used his strongest blow against the Sword Master. The entire sky was instantly covered with dark clouds, and streaks of lightning struck the dragon's body, making it look very ferocious. However, these lightning bolts not only did not cause any damage to the dragon, on the contrary, they strengthened the dragon's fist. A very terrifying lightning power. Coupled with the dragon's own unique fruit ability, a rapidly rotating small hurricane appeared on the dragon's fist. Although it was small in size, it could be felt that its wind force was very strong, even within the dragon's fist. The wind has reached level 20. Moreover, the successive butterfly effects, as the small hurricane on the dragon's fist rotated rapidly, actually caused the terrifying aura around it, and tornadoes formed one after another around them, blowing unscrupulously around. Here comes this move that Long is proud of. I don't know how many peerless warriors were defeated by Long's move in the end. The She-Monster King said with excitement. The main disadvantage of this move is that it requires a close-range attack on the enemy's body to cause substantial damage to the enemy. The feint attack between himself and the Revolutionary Army solved the disadvantage of this move for long. The dragon now used this move against the Sword Master at almost zero distance. Even Sabo on the side was shocked. Even Sabo had never seen this move of Dragon. He originally thought that Dragon's fruit development ability was not strong. Dragon could dominate the world with physical skills comparable to Garp. Now, look, I still underestimated this leader of the Revolutionary Army. It is unimaginable that the dragon created such a large-scale tornado just by relying on the tornado on its fist. You can imagine how strong the high-speed rotating wind above the dragon's fist is. If you were hit by a tornado that was spinning at a high speed of level 20 on top of that fist, what horrific damage would be caused? Feeling the terrifying aura brought by the dragon, the sword master finally narrowed his eyes. The man in front of him was definitely not as weak as he thought. On the contrary, he possesses terrifying power. No wonder Long made the world government so fearful before Yu appeared. The sight and hearing color was activated to the extreme. The muscles of the sword master's right arm doubled in size in an instant. The holy sword in his hand was shining brightly, and he slashed at the dragon's fist. In an instant, the white sword intent filled the world. Between. The power of the storm generated by the revolutionary Long was in a stalemate in the sky. The whole sky was thundering and lightning flashed, and the violent storms around him became even crazier. Chapter 167 The Juggernaut's weird defense is comparable to Yu. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. The revolutionary troops who were advancing on the side showed extremely shocked expressions when they saw this scene. Regarding this stormy weather environment, they knew very well that this was when the dragon started to take action. And during this period, the guys who can guard the world headquarters are those major generals. Aren't they already wiped out by the revolutionary army? Who is it that came here and made a strong man like Long go to war like this? So groups of revolutionary troops moved towards the place where the war broke out. Tap tap tap. The revolutionary army marched towards their destination with neat steps. Over at the world headquarters, our revolutionary army leader must have encountered a very terrifying enemy. Support immediately. Support immediately. A man led the revolutionary army team. He yelled at the top of his lungs. The dragon in the sky sensed this in advance. His eyes were still serious. Hey, don't let the revolutionary army come over. A battle of this scale cannot be stopped by people like them. Long shouted the order. After hearing Long's order, the shocked Southern Army commander gradually recovered and took out something similar to a firework from his mechanical backpack and pointed it at the sky. Boom. A fire dragon spewed out. This was a fire bomb used by the Revolutionary Army to communicate messages. After the marching Revolutionary Army saw the contact bomb in the sky, they instantly understood its meaning and started to stop one by one, and even it also moved several hundred meters away from the rear. This time, Mr. Long is going to fight a terrifying guy. We don't want to go there. If we go to this level of battle, it will only be a hindrance. Soldiers of the Revolutionary Army, one by one looking at the direction where the dragon fought, he murmured. On the battlefield, the sword master showed an angry look after hearing what Long said. I said, Long, you guy, are you still thinking about the Revolutionary Army at this time? It seems that you still know too little about my terror. If you can't protect yourself, don't stop thinking about it. Pretend to be a hero. The sword master looked angry, and with the sacred sword, Zhongran began to make a sound like a dragon's roar. Holy sword, open. As the sword master shouted loudly, the size of the previous holy sword actually doubled in size, and a dazzling white light kept shining from the sword body. The revolutionary Long, who was evenly matched just now, saw his violent aura retreat faintly under this terrifying holy light. The people around looked at the white holy light in the sky, and each of them opened their mouths wide, feeling at a loss. Obviously, this holy light was not released by the revolutionary Long, which means that Long is now suppressed. Looking at the increasingly powerful sacred light in the sky, the soldiers of the revolutionary army felt more and more uneasy in their hearts. The person who can suppress the dragon's violent aura, could he be the last I am that the dragon mentioned? Thinking of this, everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. They didn't expect to start fighting Lord I Am so soon. Now they have no other choice but to hope that the dragon will win the final victory. As long as the dragon wins this battle, the final victory, then you can be sure that this battle that concerns all mankind is over. On the battlefield, the dragon's aura was suppressed crazily, and the dragon could already feel that these white lights were not just sword intent, but also mixed with some weird energy. These energies seem to be able to penetrate everywhere. At this time it has gradually penetrated into my body. Severe pain kept coming, and his bones seemed to be broken. The commander of the Eastern Army who was on the ground naturally noticed this. He waved the military flag in his hand again, and blue-green rays of light appeared, slowly moving towards the dragon. Under this green light, the dragon's body unexpectedly the pain gradually disappeared, and recovery efforts increased. The sword master frowned. This guy from the Eastern Army, his abilities were really tricky. He could even temporarily heal the internal damage caused by his own sacred light. Sabo, the S********** King, Crow, and Commander Nan who were on the ground were naturally not idle. How could they persevere while watching the dragon in the sky? In an instant, these people faced the sky again. The Sword Master attacks. In an instant, swarms of crows came one after another with all kinds of artillery fire, and the Demon King also fired one death eyebrow after another at the stalemate in the sky. Sabo of the Revolutionary Army, armed with a colored Ryuzakura, fired at the Sword Master. The distant Ryuzakura haki appeared, and an armed colored Ryukaku with a dragon-shaped pattern cut through the sky with bursts of light. The Sword Master noticed the attack on him and frowned slightly. You guys are really noisy. After finishing speaking, the Sword Master opened his left hand, forming a four-way Conqueror's barrier. Show it in front of yourself. One attack after another hit the Juggernaut's Conqueror's barrier, creating a terrifying explosion of flames right in front of the Juggernaut. The temperature of the surrounding air suddenly rose due to the friction of this attack, but the flames of the explosion disappeared strangely after they came into contact with the Conqueror's square barrier of the Juggernaut. All were resolved one by one. Everyone on the ground showed shocked expressions as they watched the Sword Master neutralize everyone's attacks one by one with just a casual wave. There was a slight drop of sweat on his forehead. This guy called the Sword Master, his strength is really not ordinary and terrifying. This way of releasing conquerors reminds them of a person, that is, a very popular guy on this sea, Yi Yu, who is called the Devil. This man has actually mastered the same method of controlling conquerors as Yi Yu. Sabo said in shock. Chapter 168 Holy Sword. Yi Yu was his idol, and the man in front of him actually mastered the control method of his idol over conquerors, which made Sabo couldn't help but feel frightened. The ******** King, the commander of the Southern Army, Crow and others also looked shocked. Yi Yu's shock to them on the main screen was really too powerful. Being able to possess Yi Yu's conqueror's control method made the people around him solemn. If he has Yi Yu's strength, I'm afraid we may not be his opponent even if we join forces. Cold sweat broke out on Crow's forehead, with a solemn look on his face. Revolutionary Long also took advantage of his teammate's attack to find an opening and was freed from the confrontation with the Swordmaster just now. Moonwalking in the air, he stepped back a few times, widening the distance between him and the Swordmaster. Revolutionary Long Yi narrowed his eyes. The man in front of him had the same control over conquerors as Yi Yu. He seems to be a difficult guy, let's implement our plan B. Long frowned and said. In fact, long before this, the Revolutionary Army had already thought of its own plan to deal with IM, and Plan B was one of many plans to deal with IM. The plan originally used to deal with IM was used to deal with Juggernaut, which shows how much the Revolutionary Long attaches great importance to Juggernaut. After hearing what Long said, the Sword Master showed a disdainful look. Show me all the power you can use, so I can have some fun, hehehehe. The Sword Master soared into the air, curled his lips, and spoke in a joking tone. Said. Even if it is the most troublesome organization in the world and the organization that is most wanted to be eradicated, everything is so vulnerable in front of my own Sword Master. Even in the previous battle, the Sword Master only used less than 30% of his power. Don't underestimate us. Our Revolutionary Army's team fighting capabilities will not be afraid of any force in the world. The crow roared, and its body turned into crows and began to fly in all directions to the west. Are you trying to hide your eyes again? You boring guy. The Sword Master showed a hint of disdain. The holy sword in his hand shines brightly, and the armed domineering energy is gathered on his holy sword, and he strikes the people on the ground with one blow. Boom. A strike that penetrated the world was released, and the entire sky was eclipsed by this attack. The crows that appeared once again turned into pools of blood, and all kinds of artillery fire exploded under the collision of the swords, but they did not resist the attack of the holy sword at all. Two rapidly rotating tornadoes appeared again on Revolutionary Long's hands, and the surrounding air was filled with lightning and thunder. Go. It's impossible to break through his defensive shield without a powerful attack. Try your best. Long Bao let out a roar, and two small tornadoes rotating at high speeds intertwined with each other and rushed toward Sword Master Bickley crazily. Sabo and the captain of the Southern Army also released their Ryukaku haki towards the sky. The two Ryukaku haki were absorbed by the tornado and intertwined. The entire space became blurred under the extremely fast whirlwind, and one could even see cracks appearing one after another in the space. The space was torn apart at this moment, and even more powerful energy was released from the space. This is the Dragon's Trump card, which can release even more terrifying and weird power from space. The reason why our Revolutionary Army is so feared by the world government is not only because of me, but also because our team's combat strength is the most terrifying in the world. The human demon king shouted loudly. Road. This sentence is not nonsense. The characters in the Revolutionary Army are indeed the most tacit in terms of coordination ability. The flag in the hands of the commander of the Eastern Army also radiated a trace of lightning power. With the waving of the military flag, all the thunder and lightning power followed the revolutionist Long's attack and entered the direction of the Sword Master. The entire space seemed to be spinning at an extremely fast speed. The combined attack of the Revolutionary Army was not much weaker than the combined attack of Marine, Kaido, and Big Mom who had fought the war. The Sword Master frowned. As a strong man who was only second to Master IM in the past hundreds of years, he had to admire him in the face of such an attack. Sure enough, the combined force of everyone was able to reach his level. A level of intensity. Sisters, I recognize your strength. The Sword Master's eyes began to become slightly serious. Taking the holy sword in his hand, he waved it heavily in front of his face, and something strange happened. There was no terrifying slash, but a soft light appeared. This light combined with the Sword Master's own Conquerors formed a gentle square barrier on his chest. Although this barrier looks weak, it has a strange defensive ability. The previous attack of the Revolutionary Army was strangely absorbed by this barrier after it penetrated the barrier. The Sword Master showed a confident look. My Conqueror's defensive shield is not a defensive shield like ye use. In a sense, I can resist any attack. My Conqueror's defense is equipped with the sacred power of the Holy Sword. There is no attack in this world that can break his defense. I am absolutely defending a higher level of defense in Yu. The Sword Master murmured while holding his holy sword. It can be seen that Sword Master Bickley is very confident in his sword. The reason why he agreed to be Im's lifelong bodyguard was because Im gave him this holy sword. According to legend, this holy sword was a trophy obtained from Demon after Lord Im defeated his most powerful opponent, Demon, before the Tianlong people established their royal power. A weapon of this level is undoubtedly the most powerful weapon in the world. Even the supreme sharp knife cannot compare with it. And the Sword Master also relied on this holy sword to become the first person in the world in the past 800 years, except for Lord Im. How many peerless strong men have been defeated by Mu? Chapter 169 Revolutionary Military Physical Skills Secret Dragon Fist. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. As long as there is a strong person who cannot be solved by the world government, then Im's personal bodyguard will appear and help the entire world government solve this suddenly difficult guy. And in order to prevent people in the world from knowing too much about the abilities of the celestial dragon Im and the Sword Master, the entire world government will hide the whole thing. So, except for a very small number of rulers in this world, no one will know about the abilities of Im and the Sword Master, let alone their abilities, and even their existence, very few people know. Most of these powerful men have been buried in history and disappeared in the long river of history. Over the years, the Sword Master has killed countless powerful men with this holy sword. Even Roger and Rox have never caught his eye. So, facing the mere revolutionary army, the Juggernaut did not use all his strength from the beginning. How about it? Everyone who has seen my ability is dead. The Sword Master curled his lips and said lightly, with a very disdainful look on his face. The entire revolutionary arsenal looked shocked. Only they and their hearts know how powerful their blow just now was. But, under the strange ability of the Juggernaut, their attacks were as if they had never existed. Once they entered the barrier of the Juggernaut, they disappeared without a trace, as if they had never existed. Generally. While everyone in the revolutionary army was astonished, the Sword Master once again took out the holy sword in his hand, and a white light shone brightly, which made people feel frightened. Be careful, the Juggernaut is about to attack again. Revolutionary Army Dragon roared loudly. The whirlwind in the hands of the Revolutionary Army Dragon appeared, mixed with armed power, and attacked the Sword Master in the sky first. You guys really have no end. The Sword Master had lost his patience and faced the people on the ground, condensing the energy around his body. The holy sword shines brightly, and the entire sky becomes extremely bright. The surrounding objects seem to have energy. Under the light of the holy sword, all the energy is gathered. Go! The Sword Master shouted and released it again to the people below the ground. In an instant, the sky and the earth changed color, and a slashing wave with a length of 10,000 meters was launched from the hands of the Sword Master. In just a blink of an eye, he came directly in front of everyone, and a devastating blow exploded. There was a loud bang. The Sword Master's strike struck the earth, and the entire earth cracked, sputtering up a large amount of ruins. Smoke and dust filled the air, and there were cracked clods of soil everywhere. When the smoke and dust dispersed, a huge crack appeared on the entire earth. Looking at it, it was bottomless. The entire earth seemed to be cut off directly by this blow. HMPH, they're just a bunch of clowns. I haven't even used 30% of my strength, so you guys can't do it. The Sword Master looked at me with contempt. Forget it, I didn't plan to let you play with me for long anyway. My real purpose is you. Just think of it as training with me. The Sword Master folded his hands on his chest and said with an indifferent expression. Looking at the ruins in front of him, the Sword Master was obviously very confident. Putting his holy sword behind his back, the Sword Master was about to fall. Behind him, a group of crows appeared inexplicably. The Sword Master showed a surprised look. The crow guy remembered that he had been cut into nothingness by his sword long ago. Why did this suddenly appear again? But it doesn't matter. This kind of attack only serves to disgust yourself, and it won't cause you any harm at all. He was ready to strike again, but just as he raised his holy sword, his hand was grabbed by a dark dragon claw on the wrist. All the crows from before turned into the revolutionary army. The person who caught the Sword Master was Sabo. At this time, Sabo's armed color was activated to the extreme, and his palm Yanran had turned into the form of a dragon's claw. The E King also kicked the other arm of the Sword Master. With the kick of the black high-heeled shoes, a sharp black arc appeared from the air and collided with the Sword Master's other arm. I have to admire the Juggernaut's reaction ability. Even if the crow activated his fruit ability, under unexpected conditions, everyone directly transformed from the crow back to his true form. In this case, against the Juggernaut's sudden blow, the Juggernaut still able to react quickly and resist. It's just that it's hard for two fists to defeat four hands, and the revolutionary dragon's attack has also appeared. Sword Master, we have analyzed your strange ability. Although your holy sword is very powerful and the square barrier drawn can resist our attacks, it also has a weakness, that is, you cannot resist the barrier behind it. Attack. Your defense method is not ye use 360-degree defense, and you rely too much on your holy sword. This blow will kill you immediately. It was originally a trick to deal with but this time it will open your eyes. Revolutionary Long roared with a ferocious expression. The next moment, two huge whirlwinds formed directly on the hands of the Revolutionary Long. This time, Conqueror's winding attack special effects were added to the whirlwinds. Under the premise that the Sword Master's hands were used for defense, there was a bang in zero distance. Aiming at the Sword Master's stomach, he hit hard. In an instant, there was strong wind pressure all around. Even Sabo, the King and others were unable to stand firmly in the sky due to the aftermath of the wind pressure. Revolutionary Long's hands were violently blasted at Sword Master Bickley. Under the strong pressure, Bickley's expression changed greatly. Conqueror's super whirlwind was sandwiched between him, and the damage was very terrifying. No one could survive like Bickley. The centuries-old monster was beaten until it spat out a mouthful of blood, then spun rapidly in the air and hit the ground heavily. It can be seen that the clothes of Sword Master Bickley were torn apart due to this powerful rotating force. As the juggernaut fell to the ground, the entire ground changed drastically. The entire ground became undulating, and finally two huge peaks of the earth appeared directly, sandwiching the juggernaut in the middle. The Sword Master felt the squeezing feeling from the earth in all directions. He was about to use his strength to break free from the shackles of the earth, and the next moment two more terrifying forces came. It turns out that Sabo and Revolutionary Dragon in the sky did not stop their attacks. Instead, they jumped into the ground as the Sword Master, his hands became extremely black, and they all hit the ground heavily. Dragon Fist, Earth Collapse. Revolutionary Long and Sabo's attacks were exactly the same. After hitting the ground, the entire ground began to tremble and collapse. Terrifying power came from the interior of the earth, and even a large number of ravines and faults appeared on the surface of the earth. Buzz buzz. Terrifying and strange sounds are heard from time to time throughout the earth. If no one pays attention, they must think that there is a crustal movement happening somewhere. The Sword Master is located at the bottom of the earth, and the pressure he feels is 100 times more terrifying than on the surface. Dragon Fist is a taijutsu that Ryu continues to improve and research based on his own taijutsu taught by Garp. It is many times more powerful than Marine 6 styles. One of the important reasons why Sabo was able to surpass many powerful men such as the Tyrant Bear and the Monster King and become the second in command in the Revolutionary Army is that Sabo learned the Dragon's Dragon Fist series. Although Sabo is still young and cannot understand the essence of Dragon Fist, he can still exert half the power of the Revolutionary Dragon Fist. The two of them released the Dragon Fist at the same time, which had the effect of 1 + 1 being greater than 2. The combined blow of the two was several times more powerful than the Dragon Fist used by the dragon alone. Chapter 170 The True Face of the Tianlong People. The Sword Master located inside the earth was injured one after another, and his internal organs were tumbling and standing up. Even though he was protected by the holy light, under the continuous attacks, a large amount of blood finally spurted out from his mouth. Sizzle. The sound of corrosion came from the interior of the earth. The commander of the Western Army, wearing kawaii clothes, also walked out of the ground. The people around were suspicious for a while. Why do you feel that there is some corrosion sound inside the earth? Is it your special ability, dragon? Sabo asked with a suspicious look on his face, thinking that the dragon was hiding some trump card, adding some unique attack method under the power of the Dragon Fist. Long Zi's serious face softened. He had heard his father Garp say that among the celestial dragons, I am and his descendants are the purest celestial dragons, and the blood of these people is purple. And their blood has the property of corroding all things. For such a sound to appear, it must be because their plan was successful. This should be the purest celestial dragon blood. Even if the Sword Master is not dead, he must have been seriously injured. Revolutionary Long murmured to everyone. After hearing Long's explanation, the people around him breathed a sigh of relief. The Sword Master is not weak. If they hadn't used surprise and special moves to counter they might have been the ones who were finished now. Everyone gasped and looked at the twists and turns of the earth, still with lingering fear. It can be said that they won this battle by a narrow margin. If the Sword Master realizes their battle plan, with the strength of the Sword Master, he may be able to penetrate them with just one blow. Fortunately, this scary guy was defeated by us. If we let him fight back, I'm afraid we will all be dead. The human demon king looked at the ground and said with a serious look on his face. The shock that the Sword Master gave him was really too great. No matter it was the attack or his invincible defense, it was not something he could defeat at his level. But, just one Sword Master makes us so troublesome. If it is I am really worried that we will not be his opponent. The revolutionary looked at Mary Joa in the distance. Direction, with a solemn look on his face. Furthermore, we also directly used one of the plans to fight IM. Through IM's intelligence capabilities, I think IM has a general understanding of our capabilities. This will undoubtedly give us an answer. Coming down to fight IM left a big problem. Sabo also showed a solemn look and analyzed the battle. Just when everyone was sighing at the strength of the Tianlong Yimu lineage, an old voice came from the underground. You low-class humans, you are a little too happy, ha ha ha. Do you really think that you can defeat me with the close cooperation of your group of ants? It's just nonsense. No matter how well coordinated a group of ants is, they can't shake an elephant. Arrogant laughter came directly from the ground. There is no doubt that this voice is none other than the Heavenly Dragon Sword Master who was previously driven underground through the cooperation of the Revolutionary Army. Immediately afterwards, the entire earth began to tremble non-stop, and the faces of everyone in the Revolutionary Army began to change drastically. The powerful attack just now didn't work. Is the Sword Master's defense so terrifying? With a bang, the entire earth gradually cracked, and a hole appeared in the middle. The Sword Master held the holy sword and rushed out from the surface of the earth. You guys actually hurt me. Go to hell, you bastards, this is what you get for hurting me, you inferior humans. The Sword Master said ferociously. At this time, everyone showed indescribable expressions. In addition to the physical strength of the Juggernaut, there is another important reason, that is, the Juggernaut's face has completely changed. At this time, the Sword Master no longer looked like a man in his 30s with long flowing hair, but his entire head had doubled in size, his forehead protruded outward, and his ferocious fangs were exposed in the air. His long hair became messy, and there was still a blue-purple liquid in his mouth, which was the Juggernaut's own blood. The people around him all looked at the Sword Master, and they were all shocked. Sword Master. Is this Sword Master Bickley? Sabo opened his mouth wide and said in disbelief. The Ladyboy King's heavily made-up face showed an exaggerated expression. I really can't believe it. Could this be the true face of the Sword Master? Even Long, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, showed an exaggerated expression. Sword Master, is this what the so-called Tianlong people look like? Long widened his eyes and said in shock. Sword Master Bickley's eyes also grew colder. I really didn't expect that you low-level humans can actually inspire my true face. There are countless strong people who have seen this face, but the final outcome is the same. They are all captured by me. Kill it with your own hands, it will be very ugly when you die. Sword Master Bickley said gloomily. The commander of the Western Army on the ground once again activated his fruit ability, directly dug a large hole in the ground and escaped into it. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites shared the same login details so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 171 Dragon in Full Combat Power, Black Tornado. The Sword Master's eyes were cold. Your abilities are very tricky. I don't want to be limited by your abilities anymore. After saying that, he slashed hard at the ground with a sharp slash. The dazzling light emerged again, and a slashing wave with a length of up to a kilometer appeared. It was just a blink of an eye. Before anyone could react, it slammed into the ground. Boom! A violent explosion occurred across the ground. Everyone in the Revolutionary Army jumped into the sky to prevent being affected by this powerful force. Under this terrifying attack, the entire ground became torn apart, with large clods of soil everywhere. It was unimaginable that this place turned out to be the world government. The Western Army commander Mori, who was on the ground, gradually emerged from the cracked ground with his huge body, filled with bright red blood. It could be seen that he had been seriously injured at this time and looked like he was dying. Mori! Everyone in the Revolutionary Army shouted. The next moment, the Sword Master didn't give everyone a chance to react. In just a blink of an eye, he arrived behind the Northern Army commander Crow. The holy sword in his hand gave off a dazzling light and slashed at Crow. Karas, be careful, the Revolutionary Long shouted to the Crow. Betty, the commander of the Eastern Army, had a serious look on his face, biting his bright red lips, and quickly waved his flag, and a red light appeared. The Sword Master showed a surprised look. His attack actually slowed down a bit. It seemed that his previous analysis was wrong. The most troublesome person here is not the fat man dressed as a woman, nor the cold man who can transform into a crow at any time, but the woman in front of him. Every time when he is about to succeed, he can always organize himself before he succeeds. The so-called cooperation ability is the strongest, and I am afraid that most of the reasons are also because of this woman. The next moment, the commander of the Northern Army turned directly into a crow, because the Juggernaut's attack was a step slower, and the Juggernaut's blow still hit a group of crows. The group of crows were struck by his blow. Directly annihilated, leaving behind a large number of crow feathers floating in the sky. Following this, all the previous revolutionary armies disappeared again. Is it some boring attack method again? The Sword Master murmured in the air. But this time, your wishful thinking was wrong. The Sword Master spoke slowly. I saw the Sword Master closing his eyes, and white lightning appeared on his holy sword. White lightning flashed all over the holy sword. The next moment, just a blink of an eye, the Sword Master disappeared directly from the place. Then he picked up his sword and struck the air. A line of bright red blood appeared strangely in the sky and was thrown to the ground. After that, the figure of Commander Karas of the Northern Army appeared directly. His whole body was filled with white lightning. His whole body was shaking. Then he fell heavily from the sky and finally fell on the body of Commander Mori of the Western Army. The white lightning guided him. When it came to Mori, both of them were dying, and there were no screams. Get rid of the second one, the ugly-faced Sword Master said, looking around. The people around him also showed their true colors as the crow fell from the sky. Revolutionaries Long, Sabo, King, Betty, and Confederate Army Commander Lindbergh all looked at the man in front of them in shock. This man is so terrifying that even if he sees it, he can't detect the existence of the crow's move, and the man in front of him has a more powerful sense of perception than seeing it. It's surprising. This is a more powerful induction that we Tianlong talents have. It is on the same level as the demon's ability to listen to all things. It's normal for you lower-class humans to be unable to detect it. The Sword Master said ferociously. But you low-class people can be called strong in this world if you can force me out of this state. But, don't think that you are strong in this world. You can deal with us Tianlong people. The Sword Master curled his lips slightly and murmured. The holy sword in his hand shines brightly again. In this state, I am not something you mere low-level humans can resist. The Sword Master did not hesitate, the holy sword in his hand shone brightly, and once again released a wave of terror towards the revolutionary army, of slashing. Buzz. The entire sky was scratched, and the white clouds in the sky were directly split into two halves under this blow. The powerful aura made even the entire space tremble. After the Sword Master's face changed into his original appearance, his power was 3 times greater than before. Everyone in the revolutionary army also truly felt the terrifying strength of Sword Master Bickley. The powerful sword intent swept around, and finally turned into a long white dragon. With a dragon roar, it flew towards everyone at high speed. Wherever it passed, cracks appeared one after another along with the earth, and the entire earth was torn apart. Sabo, the S********** King, the commanders of the Eastern Army, and the Southern Army all showed frightened expressions. These people are also considered top-notch masters in this world. Facing the Sword Master's blow, his expression was no longer calm. The S******** King widened his eyes. I have only seen this kind of terrifying attack from you on the big screen. Sabo, Betty, and the commander of the Confederate Army also swallowed the saliva in their mouths, with dull expressions on their faces. The Sword Master's slash is not weaker than Yu. He will die. As the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Revolutionary Long, his eyes were solemn. At this moment, only Long could stand up. Facing an impossible blow, the Revolutionary Long shouted loudly, and the muscles in his body suddenly exploded, and even the clothes around him were torn apart. The surrounding revolutionary troops all looked at the Revolutionary Long. It was the first time for them to see the dragon in this state, and the momentum around him was at its most powerful. The dragon's hands became extremely dark, his body began to tremble, and the sky and the earth turned black. Powerful tornadoes suddenly appeared from all directions. Their height could reach 10,000 meters, reaching into the sky. Thunder and lightning were rolling in the sky, there was a heavy downpour, and the whole ground was extremely dark. Sword Master Bickley showed a look of disdain. You guys, dirty low-class people, even your tricks are so dark. Die under the light of my holy dragon. I will purify you, Bickley said coldly, cooperating. His terrifying face is very ferocious. The dazzling white light looked even more dazzling in the extremely dark sky. Revolutionary Long was sweating profusely on his forehead, and his dark black arms made a unique movement. The tornadoes that were around 10,000 meters high before, under the control of Long, all rushed towards the direction of Swordmaster Bickley. Bickley narrowed his eyes, showing a look of surprise. It was hard to believe that lower-level humans, besides the perverted existence of Yu, could actually have such terrifying strength. These terrifying tornadoes are actually mixed with domineering energy. Not only are they armed, but conquerors are also involved. With the help of high-speed rotating tornadoes, this terrifying attack method is many times more powerful than Conqueror's entanglement. This is probably the reason why the world government is really afraid of dragons. Interesting guy, Sword Master Bickley said coldly with the corner of his mouth slightly tilted. After the white dragon light slash in the sky touched the black tornado, there were all kinds of loud noises in an instant. Under the loud noise, the tornado released by the Revolutionary Long was directly split into two halves. The dazzling light pierced everyone in the Revolutionary Army. Revolutionary Long's body undulated violently, controlling one domineering tornado after another, and rushed towards the Sword Master's slashing attack. One way, two ways, three ways. The whole world was spinning, one after another, tornadoes colliding with the Sword Master's slashes. Chapter 172 Holy Sword Dragon. However, no matter what the Revolutionary Dragon's attack was, he couldn't resist the Sword Master's slash. Tornadoes were cut in half. A powerful breath rushed towards the face, and the strong wind pressure made everyone unable to breathe. Dazzling light filled the entire sky, and the surrounding space was illuminated extremely brightly. The previously dark sky no longer existed. You guys, there is no way you can withstand my attack. This is a gap between races, and it is simply insurmountable for you. Sword Master Bickley curled his lips with a look of disdain. The powerful sword intent swept over, mixed with a large number of ruins, making people's hearts start to tremble. It's coming. Even the dragon can't stop this terrifying blow. The human demon king said with his eyes widened. If even the dragons couldn't stop this terrifying blow, then the remaining people, just by themselves, would be even more difficult to stop such a terrifying blow. Revolutionary Long's eyes became more and more serious, and he began to shout loudly to the people behind him. Run. Our first goal now is to escape from here. We are no match for him. Revolutionary Long said seriously. After the transformation, the strength of the Sword Master has once again improved to a new level. After hearing this, everyone in the Revolutionary Army activated their abilities and retreated. Long stood in front of them, his eyes unusually serious. The dragon's own arms were full of armed colors. Even because the armed colors were too abundant, his arms suddenly expanded several times. The entire arms were filled with dark muscle lumps, and the arms appeared larger than the thighs. Even thicker. You can even see the flow of armed colors from the dragon's arms. The full armed color rolled on the dragon's arms, and finally turned into the shape of the dragon. Then he blasted out the sword light that swept toward him, and two armed dragons spurted out from the dragon's hands. In an instant, two black-armed giant dragons fought across the sky with the sacred dragon released by the sword master. Bolts of lightning struck down from the sky. It could be seen that the two black dragons were no match for the white dragon. The two sharp claws of the white dragon directly penetrated the two armed black dragons. From the claws of the white dragon, sizzling sounds came out from time to time. The two black dragons groaned one after another, and finally disappeared into nothingness, but they also successfully blocked the attack of the sacred dragon. Sword Master Bickley snorted coldly. I really didn't expect you, Revolutionary Long, to be able to stop my holy Stegosaurus, but it doesn't make any sense. Even if it's residual power, it's not something you group of ants can stop. Sword Master Bickley said disdainfully. The white dragon slashed and flew towards the Revolutionary Army again. Although it was blocked by successive attacks, its momentum was still so terrifying. There was a loud bang. The giant white dragon exploded directly on the ground, like a nuclear bomb. The terrifying energy emitted a dazzling light and began to leak out at the speed of light in all directions. Long, the revolutionary at the forefront, was the first to be affected by this terrifying energy, and the intense energy surged crazily. Long directly activated the armed domineering energy all over his body. Only in this way could he save his own life. Even so, under the powerful light energy, Revolutionary Long's internal organs were still smashed to pieces. A large amount of blood spurted out from Revolutionary Long's mouth, and rushed into the air under the impact of the holy light. The commander of the Confederate Army who was running away quickly showed a shocked expression. He had reached an altitude of 10,000 meters in advance. He did not expect that the shock wave of the explosion was so terrifying. Even at an altitude of 10,000 meters, he was also affected. The white light directly filled the eyes of the Confederate Army commander, and he was in front of the Confederate Army commander in an instant, accompanied by a scream. Pieces of scrap iron were thrown directly into the air, and various sprayed fuels were directly burned and exploded under the white light. In this holy light, it is also difficult to find the figure of the commander of the Southern Army. The Human Demon King and Eastern Army Commander Betty were also running frantically on the ground. Although the Earth had been torn apart by previous battles, the Human Demon King and Betty were still able to rely on the power of the Earth and not only jumped forward. It's just that their speed is still too slow compared to the Sword Master's slashing wave. A dazzling light appeared behind them and came to them in an instant. The Human Demon King turned to look at the slashing wave behind him, his eyes widened, and his heavily made up cheeks looked very strange. After swallowing a mouthful of his own saliva, the Human Demon King spoke slowly. Quote. Is this the power of the celestial dragons? I originally thought that the so-called celestial dragons were just idiots. Now, looking at it, the celestial dragons are far more powerful than I imagined. More. The E King widened his eyes and said with a look of horror and shock. On the other hand, Betty, the commander of the Eastern Army, had a serious look on his face. He raised his head and looked at the slash coming towards him, gritting his teeth. The flag in his hand shook crazily, and the energy around him was directly mobilized when the flag was bright, rushing towards the aftermath of the slash in front of him. In front of them, the previously dazzling light now became a little dim. The E King jumped up excitedly. It's really yours, Betty. You actually managed to stop this terrifying sword light. The Demon King looked excited. However, before the Ladyboy King could finish speaking, Betty directly interrupted the Ladyboy King's words. Idiot, how could I withstand a slash that even a dragon can't resist? Hurry up and take defensive measures. Betty's face was pale, and blood even flowed from the corners of her mouth. Needless to say, it must be because of the space movement just now energy, caused by. The bright slashing wave only stagnated for a while, and the next moment, it rushed towards the Demon King and Betty fiercely. What should I do? I'm going to die, the Demon King shouted loudly. At the critical moment, she took out an injection from her waist and inserted it into her body fiercely. Betty on the side was not idle either, because at this moment she also knew very well that if she was overexerted at this time, if you are tired and miss the opportunity to resist, then the only thing waiting for you is death. Chapter 173 The Revolutionary Army was defeated on all fronts, and the Sword Master attacked Yu. I saw Betty taking out her flag again, and with another wave, layers of black stone walls instantly appeared around herself and the Demon King. Although these defenses may not help, this is the only thing she can do at the moment. Something happened. Sure enough, in the aftermath, the wall protecting the two people was instantly destroyed, and the messy wall fragments turned into powder again. The two people were directly annihilated under this beam of light and disappeared. Sabo, who was left alone, faced the departure of the Revolutionary Army and fell into a state of madness. In desperation, Sabo directly understood Dragon's dragon fist. The armed colors on his arms flowed, forming a pattern of a dragon's head, and he attacked the powerful aftermath. A dragon roar was exactly the same as the attack of the Revolutionary Dragon. With a loud bang, Sabo's dragon fist collided with the aftermath of the flying attack, making a strange sound of weapons colliding. The light of the holy sword dimmed under the dark dragon fist. Sabo gasped for breath and looked in front of him. Could he resist it? The next moment, sword radiance came from all directions again. It turned out that the blow he just made had only briefly controlled the progress of the Juggernaut's attack. It only stagnated for a second. The sword radiance in front of him was resolved, but the juggernaut this attack was too powerful. Although Sabo's attack successfully resisted the attack in front of him, under the powerful aftermath, the aftermath of the dazzling light slash was everywhere, and attacks from all directions immediately poured in. Under this dazzling light, Sabo's eyes were momentarily dazzled, and he could not see the scene in front of him. The next moment, there was a buzzing sound, and there was only a roar in his head. Sabo fell directly to the ground, followed by this light disappeared from the world itself. Above the sky, a man in a half soared into the sky, inserting a lightsaber in his hand into his back again. His ferocious face gradually returned to its normal form, still looking handsome. HMPH, lower-class human beings are still lower-class humans after all. Just wait, you low-class human being, I will get rid of you today. The Sword Master said coldly. The previous battle with the dragon was just a warm-up exercise for the Sword Master. The real battle had just begun. After finishing speaking, without turning his head, a ball of Conqueror's domineering energy appeared under the Juggernaut's feet, and Conqueror's imperial power rushed directly in the direction of Yi Yu. As Yi Mu's lifelong guard, he only has one goal, then it is to eradicate the humans who threaten Lord I Am. As for the Whitebeard pirates, they are not among his targets at all. Only Yi Yu deserves to be his target. Boom. Like a rocket being launched, the Sword Master carried the holy sword on his back, forming a white trace in the sky. He flew crazily at an almost teleporting speed. Because of the fierce friction between the Sword Master and the air, the place he passed was 10 kilometers in radius. There are huge noises everywhere. This also attracted the side glances of the crowd below, and everyone looked up to the sky. Look, what is that? What is it? Faster than a meteor. I just looked at it a second late, could only see the tail. I saw it. You may not believe it, but it looks like the same person. Are you kidding? Someone can actually fly in the sky. And, so fast. People around them looked suspiciously. No matter how they thought, they couldn't believe that someone could fly in the sky. The speed reaches this level, even faster than the speed of a meteor, and it rubs against the air at high speed in the sky. If it is a human, is it sure that it will not be burned to death? On the other side, Yi Yu was currently drinking red wine produced in Dressrosa in his dormitory. Beside him was the beautiful Hancock, who was holding a tray with various fruits on it. The younger brother Erji stood beside Yi Yu, waiting for Yi Yu's instructions at any time. The current Whitebeard pirates can be said to be extremely rich. The entire Whitebeard pirates have picnics and drinks every day with bonfires, and there is constant laughter and laughter every day. Daily routines, such as cleaning, food supply, and base construction, are all carried out by specialized prisoners. The members of the Whitebeard pirates, like Yi Yu, all have to do every day to enjoy life. On this day, everyone was still eating and drinking on their respective boats, but suddenly there was a huge roar in the sky. The people who were working on land and preparing to build a network experimental base for Yi Yu looked at the sky. They saw a meteor-like object appearing in the sky, heading towards the Whitebeard pirates' attack. At this time, Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, who had not yet received the ransom, were still on Yi Yu's territory. The construction site hammers they held in their hands stopped hitting and looked towards the sky. Hey, Kaido, is that a meteor? It's such a dazzling light. Even in the daytime, it can emit such a bright light. The ant looked confused, mainly because of the noise of the meteor. It's so big that people have to doubt it. It's not just a dazzling light. Have you noticed how fast this meteor is? Even 4 emperors like Kaido were shocked and opened their mouths wide. This speed has already reached the speed of light. Working with Kaido and Big Mom, there were also people from the world government. These unlucky guys who didn't have a ransom all looked at the sky. After seeing the strange vision in the sky, they became restless one by one. Look, it's a shooting star. Can I make a wish? Ha ha ha. Iron Fist Garp said with a smile. Garp is really an old naughty boy. At this time, he is not ashamed at all because he is Yi Yu's labor prisoner. On the contrary, Garp is addicted to his work. At that time, he completely forgot about the failure of the Union Army, and regarded his work as a physical exercise. Garp, you guy, how old are you? You really have the heart to laugh. Lieutenant General, he said angrily. At this time, Lieutenant General he was covered in mud and dust and no longer had his usual temperament. Warring State's glasses reflected a white light, and he looked at the object flying rapidly towards him in the sky, with a solemn expression on his face. Why do I feel? This thing is a little weird. Warring States looked at the object in the sky, squinted his eyes and said. Sengoku, are you thinking too much? Garp asked curiously. That's right, Warring States. This thing is not so much a meteor. I think it is better to say that it is a human being flying at high speed. Cyborg Kong on the side also looked solemn. Chapter 174 The Sword Master appears in the Whitebeard Sea. By the way, do you remember that during the previous battle, that extremely old voice said that he would send the strongest person among the Tianlong people in the past few hundred years to kill Yi Yu? At this time, he the Lieutenant General rolled his eyes, patted his head, and said suddenly. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the audience immediately fell into silence. Lieutenant General he was right, there was such a person who said he was going to end Yi Yu, but this way of appearing was too exaggerated. At this time, the entire sky of the Whitebeard pirates became extremely bright due to the arrival of the Sword Master, and the dazzling light illuminated the entire land. Even the Whitebeard pirates who were eating and drinking on the side looked towards the sky. Look, what is that, a shooting star? Oh no, 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 look at its direction, it's coming towards us. Look at that meteor. Although it's small in size, it's still very fast. It's estimated that the energy it contains must be quite big. If we are hit by it, our Whitebeard pirates will be severely damaged. The entire Whitebeard pirates group began to discuss in a whirlwind manner. At this moment, the elite captains of the Whitebeard pirates also stood up from the deck. Marco touched his head with confusion on his face. What on earth is it? This doesn't look like a meteor, does it? What else could it be if it wasn't a meteor? You wouldn't tell me that the person flying high in the sky was a person. Foil Beasta said jokingly, but he didn't know it yet. His joke was really true. That's right. The sword master in the sky was too fast. In just a blink of an eye, he had already reached the heads of the Whitebeard pirates. After reaching their heads, he began to fall towards the ground at an extremely fast speed. Wait, no matter what it is, it's heading towards us now. Doflamingo swallowed his own saliva, now he could understand clearly. I could feel the pressure coming from my face. Although the meteor in the sky looks very small, for some reason, it gives people a more oppressive feeling than the meteorite summoned by Fujitora with a smile. The Empress Hancock on the side also frowned tightly, looked at the sword master flying rapidly in the sky with her beautiful eyes, opened her red lips, and spoke slowly. Hey, let me tell you, we have to do something, otherwise the entire Whitebeard pirates will suffer. Empress Hancock frowned and said, before he finished speaking, the entire sea began to tremble violently. Heavenly Yaksha also realized the seriousness of the problem. Veins popped up on his forehead and he activated his fruit ability. A huge spider web appeared in the sky above the Whitebeard pirates to resist the impact of the sword master. Sure enough, the Juggernaut's impact hit them hard. Even Doflamingo, who activated his own abilities to resist before the Juggernaut hit the ground, was still unable to withstand the Juggernaut's terrifying impact. The entire spider web-like thread was broken instantly. At the critical moment, it was Lieutenant General He who activated his fruit ability. The sea became very soft and bulged high, buffering the impact of the sword master. There was no way, they were also fighting against the Whitebeard pirates now. The regiment is working hard, and if some measures are not taken, they will also be affected. Lieutenant General Rao Shahei removed a lot of force, but the impact of the sword master was still very powerful. Finally, it landed heavily on the island next to the Whitebeard pirates. With a loud bang, the entire island was instantly destroyed. The collision shattered into pieces, and large amounts of soil began to pour out crazily in all directions. The light then dimmed, and even Yi Yu, who was playing a game, felt the loud noise and frowned. I said, is it so hard to keep people quiet? Erji, go outside and see what's going on. Yi Yu said to Erji, who was on standby at any time. Behind Yi Yu stood the upright Yerki. After hearing Yi Yu's order, he also walked out of the door. Naturally, Yi Yu would not go out. Now Yi Yu is concentrating on playing games and has no time to go out. See what happens. At this time, outside Yi Yu's dormitory, the sword master Baikali was holding his holy sword. He had long hair and a handsome face in his normal state, and he was looking at the people around him with interest. The people around were looking at the sword master up and down one by one, with confused expressions on their faces. They had never seen such a powerful figure before, and everyone was full of curiosity about this guy. Since this guy he came down from the island that was smashed by the meteor, so in other words, this person is most likely the meteor just now. To put it this way, this person is definitely a strong man. Among these people are Marco, the elite captain of the Whitebeard pirates, Diamond Josie, the former Shichibukai, Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo, Empress Hancock, Hawkeye Mahawk, and people from the previous world government, Cyborg Kong, warring states and other high-level officials, even the 2 elders from 5 elders, were also there. Seeing that these people from the former world government were now wearing dirty clothes, and they all looked like laborers, the sword master immediately became angry and felt his blood pressure rising. It was not that he felt pity for these people from the world government, but they, in a certain sense, represent the ruling class of this country, and now one by one they are actually doing the work of lower class people in the enemy's camp. This is undoubtedly a humiliation for the ruling class and the superior Tianlong people. You guys are such an embarrassment to the world government. If I were you, I would die here immediately to apologize. Master IM will not pay a penny for your compensation. You are a bunch of spineless guys. Jian Saint shouted at the people of world government. Green Bull, Ghost Spider and other marine generals all frowned after hearing Swordmaster Beakley's words. Who is this guy who dares to speak like this to the world government? Hey, you guy, pay attention to your wording. Do you know who we are, arrogant guys? Ghost Spider said coldly. As a right-winger, if it weren't for the fact that he was Yi Yu's prisoner at this time, he would be in trouble. There is a mass killing here, and the man in front of me who knows nothing about heaven and earth has been killed long ago. The other world government generals also frowned one by one. The guy in front of them was really infuriating. Except for Yi Yu, who had suffered bruises on his hands. When had their marines ever been insulted like this? Now any hot person would do you dare to make trouble against them. Chapter 175 Master Sword Master. Just when everyone was getting angry and preparing to fight back against Sword Saint Bickley, the performance of the second elder among the 5 elders really made them completely uneasy. This is Juggernaut. Master Juggernaut. The second elder of the 5 elders opened his mouth wide and said. Juggernaut. The people around looked at the Sword Master Bickley again. The feeling that the Sword Master gave them at this time was no longer the same as before, and everyone showed shocked expressions. Is this the Sword Master? This speed is too fast. He came here in such a short time, and he didn't come by boat at all, but came here directly by flying in the sky. This is too exaggerated. Idiot 5 elders, you dare to do something so embarrassing to Lord I Am. Just wait, Lord I Am will definitely punish you severely. Sword Master Beakley continued to speak. As the second elder at the pinnacle of power, he was scolded without any temper. He could only lower his head and say yes again and again. Now he can only accept the punishment. His luck is pretty good, like his eldest brother and others all died on this battlefield. There is no way. Yi Yu is too powerful. Without the existence of the Sword Master and Lord I Am, it is impossible for anyone to defeat Yi Yu. At this time, everyone in the Whitebeard pirates naturally knew who the man in front of them was. Each one of them showed fear towards the Sword Master. They had no way of knowing the information about the Sword Master, but one thing is certain, that is, the strength of the Sword Master is definitely above that of the 5 elders. And just from the conversation between the second elder who was the most powerful among the 5 elders and the Sword Master, it is not difficult to see that the strength of the Sword Master is probably far beyond that of the 5 elders. Even Edward Newgate, the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, walked out of his room and looked at the Sword Master Beakley. There was a serious expression in his eyes. The man in front of him gave people the impression that he was very dangerous. From this, he could feel that the strength of Sword Master Beakley was only grown by constantly killing people. And most of the people who were killed were top-notch strong men in the world. Only by achieving this can such a terrifying aura be exuded from a person. The man in front of me is not simple. I can feel a very terrifying aura from his body. Even so, he still hides his strength. Whitebeard's face was solemn. Sword Master Beakley raised his eyelids slightly and looked at Whitebeard. This man himself had heard I Am say once or twice that he was a guy named after Roger. It could be seen that he was hiding his strength. It seems to be okay, at least much better than these guys around me. Knowing that I am so terrifying, you should hurry up and capture me. My mission this time is mainly to kill Yi Yu. If you are sensible, I advise you not to stop me. Sword Master Beakley said disdainfully. Then he took out the holy sword from his back, and a dazzling light emanated from his holy sword. The world's greatest swordsman like Mahawk also showed a surprised expression. Mahawk swallowed his own saliva and looked at Beakley. The quality of this sword is even better than my black sword knight above. What a terrifying weapon. This is the most powerful weapon I have ever seen in my life. There is even one it feels like this weapon is not a mortal weapon at all. Mahawk, the world's greatest swordsman, opened his eyes and said. Sword Master Beakley was slightly surprised after hearing this. You're quite knowledgeable, kid, but I can't explain the power of this holy sword to you. Only a mortal like you can't fully understand the power of this holy sword. Sword Master Bai, although Clay was surprised, he still showed a look of contempt and continued to walk forward. Just now, I had already sensed Yi Yu's existence through my own sight and color. Yi Yu, this guy is in that dormitory. Only the unique sight of Tianlong people can sense the existence of Yi Yu. I have already felt that the guy playing games in the dormitory, although he looks ordinary, even a bit salty, but I can be sure that this guy, the power hidden in the depths is much more terrifying than the surface. There is no doubt that the only one among these people who can achieve such terrifying power is Yi Yu. Just like this, under the gaze of everyone, Sword Master Beakley walked step by step towards Yi Yu's dormitory. At this time, a very loud voice suddenly came over. Hey, I guess that's the noise you made just now. I saw Yerky, a strange monk with angel wings, walking towards the direction of Sword Master Beakley step by step with an angry face. He didn't know that the man in front of him was Yerky, the Sword Master. He thought that the guy holding a big sword in front of him was an admirer who came to Yi Yu from all over the world. As Yi Yu's little follower, I don't know how many people I have seen who want to defect to Yi Yu. Every one of them is holding a gift in their hands and looking sincere. Even the uncrowned king, the golden lion, looked very serious when he first came. He looked like a cow, but what happened in the end? His boss Yi Yu just showed his hands casually, cleaned it up, and finally was completely dealt with. Not only did he send gifts and please others, but he finally became Mr. Yi Yu's subordinate with great difficulty. As for the man holding a broadsword in front of me, I have never seen or heard of it. He must be just a swordsman who has just come to the new world. Maybe his strength is not as good as his own. Looking at the existence of such a cat and a dog, he is actually. Dare you act wild in front of yourself, and dare to see Mr. Yi Yu. Sword Master Beakley didn't even show a disdainful smile. To Sword Master Beakley, an existence of Yerky's level was like an existence worse than an ant. Beakley really found it difficult to deal with such a little guy. Talking, or showing any kind of strange expression, what he needs to do now is to kill this guy Yi Yu quickly. Yi Yu is his only target. Seeing that the Sword Master Beakley didn't seem to hear his words, Erky was even more angry. This guy really didn't worry about the rules. He really thought that Mr. Yi Yu was so easy to see, and he was just an unknown person who just said he would meet him. Can it be seen? Hey, are you deaf? Do you know who I am? I am Mr. Yi Yu's first subordinate. If you want to see Mr. Yi Yu, you must first pass me. Weird Monk Yerky roared loudly, and then angrily walked towards Sword Master Beakley. Chapter 176 Group Fighting Sword Master. The people around the Whitebeard pirates, as well as the prisoners of the world government, all opened their eyes wide and opened their mouths, and together with this guy Yerky, they thought the Sword Master was the one who defected to Yi Yu. A pirate. Hey, Ulky, You guy, do you know who this person is? Come back quickly, he is a sword master who is superior to the 5 elders. Marco said to Yurki. It's just that Yurki is far away from Marco, and his mind is now entirely focused on the juggernaut, so he naturally didn't notice Marco's shouts. This time, Sword Master Bickley couldn't stand it anymore. Although Yurki was like an ant in front of him, no one could stand the buzzing of a fly. Stupid guy, I'm the Sword Master. Sword Master Bickley roared angrily, and then the holy sword in his hand emitted a dazzling light again, and he raised his holy sword high above his head. Clay released a slash at Yurki. Yurki's eyes widened. Wait. This guy said he was a sword master. This name seems very familiar. Ulki's brain was spinning rapidly, and he finally remembered that I am, the so-called god, had just said that he would send a sword master. In that case, the person in front of him was sent. The peerless strongman who killed Yi Yu. Yurki swallowed his own saliva and trembled as he looked at the holy light in front of him. His strength was not at the same level as the sword master. Now he was finished. The Whitebeard pirates on the side naturally wouldn't let the sword master act recklessly on their ship. Whitebeard shouted loudly, activated the shock ability in his hand, and punched the air beside him, and then the whole space seemed to be like this. It was like it exploded, and cracks appeared one after another in the space. These cracks kept spreading, and finally rushed in the direction of Sword Master Bickley. At this moment, Hawkeye Mahawk also used his black blade Yi. Now, after receiving Yi Yu's guidance, Hawkeye Mahawk's strength has improved by leaps and bounds compared to before. This slashing wave was even more powerful than the slashing attack released before. Both in terms of speed and power, it was twice as powerful as when fighting against the enemy. In this case, we can more or less block the Juggernaut's attack. Mahawk narrowed his eyes and said. In the sky, a black slashing wave with a length of up to a kilometer appeared. With a buzzing sound, it flew towards the Sword Master Bickley at high speed. Sword Master Bickley felt Mahawk's attack and narrowed his eyes slightly. He is also a swordsman. To be honest, Hawkeye Mahawk's attack has 2 brushes. He relies on the immortality ability given to him by I.M. He has practiced swordsmanship for hundreds of years, and coupled with the holy sword given to him by I.M., he has achieved such terrifying strength. And the guy in front of him with sharp eyes like an eagle seems to have only practiced swordsmanship for 20 years, but he can reach such a state. In terms of talent alone, he can be regarded as a rising star. His sword master can the future strength of the person you like will be immeasurable. The attack is not bad. If you are interested, I can accept you as my disciple. Sword Master Bickley said calmly, then took out his holy sword and changed it from offense to defense. He just drew a circle and a square on his side. The barrier appeared instantly. In this way, whether it was Whitebeard's attack or Mahawk's attack, the 2 attacks, one black and one white, disappeared strangely after entering the circle drawn by the Sword Master Bickley, without even a little splash. Didn't turn up. The silence is even a little eerie. It's hard to believe that after practicing swordsmanship for so many days here at EU, my swordsmanship has already surpassed my original self by so much, but it is still so inadequate in front of a truly peerless strong man. The world's strongest man, Edward Newgate, also showed a surprised expression. It was really hard to believe that his shock fruit was an attack method released based on the vibration frequency of objects in the air. In a sense, apart from the dark fruit, with such a bug, it is impossible for him to have any ability to make his attacks disappear into nothingness. This Sword Master Bickley is definitely not simple. He is as strong as Yi Yu. The extremely fast Bickley on the other side, after releasing his own defensive wave, picked up his holy sword with his backhand again and started to slash at Yurki in front of him. Ulki's eyes widened and his face was bloodshot. Is he going to die? Complex emotions surged into his heart, which also made Yurki fall into memories. He remembered that he was on the Sabayati Islands, and his pirate group was wiped out by a Kainu. My mood was like this. I originally thought that I must be dead, but then an event happened that changed my life's destiny. That is the noble person in his life, Yi Yu appears. At first, Mr. Yi Yu not only saved himself, but also went to find Yi Yu to take action. He originally thought that his benefactor was dead, but after time passed, he discovered that Mr. Yi Yu had nothing to do with him at all, but that the arrogant Kososki turned into a pool of magma and blood directly in front of Yi Yu. Compared with the original situation, it can be said that the current situation is just as unbearable, and will Yi Yu appear in time to save him at this time? Yurki began to fantasize about Yi Yu's arrival, but Master Yi Yu, it seems that his temper will not appear until he finishes the game. Thinking of this, RG showed a horrified expression, but he remembered that Yi Yu was fighting the big boss Carrot. He is going to be doomed now. Arki thought helplessly, only the dazzling light remained above his eyes, and the terrifying slashes surged towards him, and in this attack under it, even the entire sea near the island began to dance. The people around began to attack the Sword Master Bickley crazily. The foil sword beasta released one after another of his own slashes, attacking the Sword Master Bickley crazily, and without exception, these attacks hit him. Above the barrier of Sword Master Bickley, everything is in ruins and there is no news. After seeing this, Captain Marco also turned on his own blue flames, and all of them rushed towards the barrier released by Swordmaster Bickley. Doflamingo himself did not dare to be careless. He awakened his Devil Fruit ability, turned it into 12 sacred bullets, and charged in the direction of Swordmaster Bickley. A blow from so many strong men should be able to break that guy's weird defense. Brother Lang Ming narrowed his eyes and stared at Bickley in front of him with a serious face and spoke solemnly. Said, Chapter 177 Strange Holy Sword. However, what surprised them was that no matter how many attacks they launched, they had no effect in the face of Swordmaster Bickley's defense. Dozens of attacks were all absorbed by the strange defensive shield. Eagle Eye Mihawk had a solemn look on his face, and his sharp eyes like an eagle looked at Bickley's holy sword. Although I don't know exactly what ability it is, one thing is certain. It must be the holy sword. That weapon is very powerful. Mihawk, a swordsman, felt the sword master Bickley's ability. Recruiting means of defense, the source of ability. This guy's defensive power is comparable to Yi Yu's Conqueror's defensive shield. Sure enough, he is a master at the same level as Yi Yu. Whitebeard Edward Newgate I had a solemn look on his face. The attack is not much different from the joint attack of the coalition forces. Even Yi Yu's terrifying attack in the face of the combined force of the World Alliance army shattered his own Conqueror's barrier, and the attacks of his group hit the sword master Bickley in front of him. Bickley's defense the cover was actually easily resisted. In a sense, sword master Bickley's defense methods seemed to be more powerful than Yi Yu's. At this time, Ulki looked at the attacks one after another hitting the sword master's side, and then they all disappeared strangely. He also swallowed a mouthful of saliva crazily. Is his life going to end like this? The holy sword is only 1 meter away from Ulki. There is no doubt that as long as it advances 1 meter further, Ulki will be annihilated under the holy light. Yurki is ready to die. At this moment, an object that looked like gold powder appeared, forming a golden barrier directly in front of Yurki. Yurki felt this familiar atmosphere and showed an expression of ecstasy. It was unmistakable. This familiar feeling was his captain, Mr. Yi Yu. Mr. Yi Yu defeated the boss. Sword Master Bickley's attack was unable to advance any further, and he immediately showed an unparalleled solemn expression. How can so many people in this world be able to block my own attack alone? Even a strong man like the Sword Master had slight sweat on his forehead. Needless to say, there is only one person who can stop him in this place, and that is Yi Yu. Hey, who are you? You're making such a fuss here that I almost didn't even defeat the boss. Yi Yu frowned and said, but he didn't want anyone to disturb him while he was playing games. Sword Master Bickley also narrowed his eyes. Yi Yu really has 2 brushes. Boy, I know you. It's Master I am who came here specifically to ask me to take your dog's head. You don't really think that you can defeat me. My strength is more than that. Sword Master Bickley locked his eyes on Yi Yu and spoke calmly. Yi Yu had also just walked out of his dormitory. If the Sword Master Bickley hadn't reported his identity, it would have been difficult for him to tell the difference. It turned out that Yi Yu and Erji had the same idea, and directly compared the Sword Master to Bickley. Clay becomes a swordsman like Mihawk who wants to follow him. It's really troublesome. It looks like we have to fight again. Yi Yu directly patted his forehead, showing a look of helplessness on his face. It's okay for the people who follow me. Now that I'm famous, no one dares to cause too much trouble. But if someone comes to kill me, I won't be able to do it myself. It's really troublesome. By the way, after I deal with you, can I come directly? You Tianlong people really don't stop. After I kill Yimu, you will probably be able to calm down, right? Yi Yu said impatiently without taking the Sword Master in his eyes at all. Sword Master Bickley's face turned red. Over the years, he had met many strong men, but each of these people was more afraid of Imuna. It would be fine if someone like Yi Yu didn't take him seriously. He actually regarded Lord I Am as a weakling, which he couldn't bear. Yi Yu, you guy, don't be ignorant of the sky and the earth. Sir I Am, how can a guy like you be able to comment at will? Bickley said angrily. After finishing speaking, Sword Master Bickley swung his attack again, with dazzling light shining out. Yi Yu became more interested. The sword in Bickley's hand was really good. Boom. Sword Master Bickley's random blow still hit Yi Yu's Conqueror's barrier. The Conqueror's barrier rippled, but Sword Master Bickley did not penetrate Yi Yu's Conqueror's barrier at all. The light leaking out from all around flew rapidly, and the entire territory of the Whitebeard pirates, within a radius of dozens of kilometers, was blown by strong winds under this energy. Eagle-eyed Miho narrowed his eyes and watched the game attentively, showing an excited expression. Mr. Yi Yu is still so powerful. Such a terrifying blow is many times more terrifying than my slash, but Mr. Yi Yu resisted it so easily. Yi Yu frowned. He originally thought that Sword Master Bickley should have some strength, but who would have thought that he was so much weaker than he thought? You are really a weakling, Bickley. To meet such a guy, you actually have to ask me to do it myself. Really? Yi Yu said with a somewhat angry tone. Then, a Conqueror's transformation condensed directly on top of his head, and a huge fist formed by Conquerors condensed on his head, from which purple lightning with terrifying energy was emitted from time to time. Sword Master Bickley looked up at Yi Yu's attack with a solemn look on his face, daring not to be careless at all. What on earth is this thing? Could it be that it is Conquerors with the power of lightning? Without giving Bickley too much thought, Yi Yu carried Purple Lightning's Conqueror's giant fist and rushed over with a bang. Under the powerful momentum, the cracks in the soil around Bickley were directly suppressed and gradually spread. Scary guy. Bickley picked up his holy sword and hurriedly blocked it. Bickley drew a square barrier directly above his head. A powerful aura rushed towards his face, and when it submerged into Bickley's square barrier, it also mysteriously disappeared. Ha ha ha. Yi Yu, don't you boast that your attack power is very powerful. What's wrong? Why didn't even my defense break down this time? Sword Master Bickley began to taunt. Chapter 178 Sword Master. Just a weak chicken. Everyone around them showed surprised expressions. If they had known that Yi Yu would succeed in any of his attacks, that would not shock the world and make ghosts cry. Which time is not a single blow, defeating hordes of people. But this time, he was resisted by someone so easily. How could people not be surprised? No way, Yi Yu's attack can't penetrate the Juggernaut's defense. Diamond Josie looked surprised and said in disbelief. Marco on the side also looked confused. To be fair, no one in this world could withstand Yi Yu's attack. That is the power that can defeat the entire World Alliance army with one strike. It's too related to that weird lightsaber. Mahawk narrowed his eyes, looking at the light of Bickley's holy sword, thoughtfully. Whitebeard also showed his thinking state and looked at the holy sword of Swordmaster Beckley. On the other side, Yi Yu also showed a surprised look after his attack was blocked and disappeared. How could he resist the Conqueror's fist with the Thunder Fruit so easily? And it seemed that they didn't even stir up a splash of water, and just disappeared in such a strange way. How about it, Yi Yu, let's capture him without any help. In terms of defense, I'm better than you. After seeing the surprised look on Yi Yu's face, Bickley suddenly became interested and continued to mock Yi Yu. However, after Yi Yu's surprised look, his face returned to a calm expression. The defense is better than mine. Then we have to wait until you can block it. Yi Yu simply rolled his eyes. The next moment, purple lightning emerged from the sky again, aiming at Bickley and attacking from all directions. Bickley instantly showed a look of pain in his heart. Although his holy sword was powerful, it could only resist attacks from one direction. He could only resist attacks from all directions with his own armament. However, even though Sword Master Bickley was fully armed and looked like a black man, he still could not withstand Yi Yu's attack due to Yi Yu's super strong current that was filled with domineering energy. Under the powerful current, the domineering attack directly penetrated Bickley's body, and the entire skeleton shape of Sword Master Bickley emerged instantly. Sizzle. Sword Master Bickley's wails continued. People around them rubbed their eyes, unbelievable that such a dramatic scene occurred. Just now, Yi Yu was showing signs of decline when facing Bickley, and Yi Yu's attack was completely absorbed by Bickley. But now, in just 1 or 2 seconds, the trend of the entire battlefield has changed. It turned out that Yi Yu had not completely released the purple lightning domineering force just now. The reason why he attacked the defensive shield formed by Bickley was because Yi Yu was very curious about Bickley's move. Sure enough, just as I expected, this square defensive shield was very strange. When I hit it with such a powerful attack, it actually disappeared out of thin air. However, this powerful defense technique must have its weaknesses. With the attitude of giving it a try, Yi Yu attacked from all directions, and as expected, he beat the Sword Master Bickley to half death. It seems like your strength isn't that great, Sword Master. I think the previous defense must have something to do with this sword. Yi Yu said calmly, looking at the dying and motionless Sword Master Bickley who was electrocuted on the ground. I originally thought that the people from Impa could have fun with me, but who knew it was so boring. Yi Yu was already planning to leave here and go back to playing games. But the next moment, an old and ferocious voice came over. Ha 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 ha, as expected of you, Yi Yu, does this make you qualified to be my opponent? The person who said this was none other than the Sword Master Bickley who was lying on the ground dying. Bickley, who was lying on the ground before, stood up directly this time, with purple blood flowing on his body, a ferocious face, and his fangs exposed all the time. The entire Whitebeard Pirates group showed surprised expressions. The man in front of him was completely different from the previous Sword Master Bickley. It was hard to believe that they were the same person. What's going on? That person is the Juggernaut. Marco looked shocked. This guy is a monster. Diamond Josie also said from the side. White-bearded Edward Newgate narrowed his eyes, looked at Bickley's ferocious appearance, and spoke with a serious face. That person is definitely the Sword Master Bickley. Is this the true face of Sky People? Whitebeard said with emotion. This also reminded Whitebeard of the scene when he was drinking with One Piece Roger decades ago. When One Piece Roger arrived at the final island, he told himself when he came back that he wouldn't live long, and also revealed to himself some secrets of the so-called celestial dragons. Although he was not interested in these things, Roger still revealed a small part of the matter to himself. That is, 800 years ago, the ancestor of the Tianlong people, was a usurper. The ruling class of this world is a top swordsman, and among the descendants of this swordsman, there is a very famous lineage, which is the current D family. And Roger also told himself one thing, that is, the celestial dragons who claim to have noble blood, and the celestial dragons who claim to be gods, are most likely an evil race with evil bloodlines in this world. They cannot be gods at all. And, now looking at the face of Sword Master Bickley, Whitebeard believed it. The true face of the celestial dragons is really disgusting. Empress Hancock on the side showed a disgusted expression. The Empress, who had no good impression of the celestial dragons at all, became even more disgusted with the celestial dragons from the bottom of her heart after seeing their disgusting true face. Yi Yu was shocked. Hey, you guy, although you are very weak, you are really capable of scaring people. Who wants you to become such an ugly person? Change it back quickly. They are scared to death by you. Yi Yu shouted to the Sword Master Bickley with an exaggerated expression on his face. After seeing Yi Yu's exaggerated expression, Sword Master Bickley immediately felt that he had been humiliated. Aren't you just a little ugly? You wouldn't be so surprised, right? You'd make yourself look like a monster. You also say that you are a weakling, but you are not weak at all, okay? The furious sword master Bickley took out his holy sword and pointed it at Yi Yu again. Boy, I'm going to let you take a good look at my true strength. I'll let you know who is the weakling right away. After finishing speaking, Sword Master Bickley jumped directly, and the ground on the earth became cracked due to the strong reaction force. The entire island where Yi Yu's dormitory is located began to tremble because of Sword Master Bickley's jump. The Sword Master Bickley in the sky shines brightly with the holy sword in his hand, and the entire sky is illuminated extremely brightly. A powerful aura surged around in an instant, and the whole world seemed to be frightened, and all the groups of Nien beasts dispersed. Chapter 179 Yi Yu's terrifying growth rate. Accept my judgment, Yi Yu. I will kill you and your entire Whitebeard pirates. Sword Master Bickley roared loudly in the sky, the light of the holy sword became brighter and brighter, and then he struck hard at Yi Yu and others on the ground. Buzz. A powerful aura hit his face instantly. A slash with a dazzling light and a length of 10,000 meters appeared directly out of thin air. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates looked above their heads in horror. My dear, an attack of this scale is comparable to Mr. Yi Yu's during the Allied Forces War. Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo had blue veins popping up on his forehead. Just a few months ago, he was still a powerful Shichibukai. In his own perception, he was very powerful. How long has passed, and now I have become a soy sauce character. With such terrifying strength, only Mr. Yi Yu in my camp can compete with it. Marco also widened his eyes. It was hard to imagine that one day he would be able to encounter such a terrifying enemy. I wonder if Captain Zero can withstand this blow. Empress Hancock also showed a prayer gesture. No matter who the opponent Yi Yu faced before, he was easily defeated. And this time, the Sword Master in front of me seems to be different from the previous opponents. Sword Master Bickley is in existence with the same combat power level as Captain Yi Yu. Mr. Yi Yu, you must survive this time, Empress Hancock murmured. Whitebeard also had a solemn look on his face. In a sense, this battle was the real battle to overthrow the celestial dragons. All the forces that fought against Yi Yu before were just lackeys of the Tianlong people. Facing the terrifying blow that mobilized the energy of heaven and earth, Yi Yu showed a hint of surprise, and then returned to his normal state. It seems that this time, this sword master is really angered by me. Yi Yu shook his head helplessly and said with emotion. Then the Golden Conquerors appeared again. Different from the past, this time the Golden Conquerors was no longer like layers of mist-like gold powder, but was surprisingly rich and condensed into a domineering defensive shield, just like it was made of gold. The city walls made of bricks are generally thick. The huge defensive shield formed not only covered Yi Yu, but also the Whitebeard pirates on the side. With a bang, a huge horrifying aftermath formed on the golden defensive shield formed by Yi Yu, all of which shot towards the surroundings crazily along the Golden Conqueror's defensive shield. Huge energy spread on the Golden Conqueror's defensive shield, and finally a large amount of aftermath hit the sea. Boom, boom. Various sounds erupted inside the sea, and the entire sea began to explode with this energy. The whole sea became turbulent. However, there was really no disturbance in the entire Whitebeard pirates, even in Yi Yu's network cable laboratory. Under the defensive cover of the Golden Conquerors, everyone looked at the surging energy above their heads. Each of them opened their mouths with incredible expressions. Judging from their vision, the Golden Conquerors was full of leaking energy, but they had no way to do anything about this energy. All of it moved into the sea along the golden steel wall made by Yi Yu. There was no chance to even touch them. No way. How could such terrifying energy be completely resisted outside? Heavenly Yaksha swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Different from previous attacks, this attack was an attack comparable to Yi Yu's own strength. I originally thought that I could be evenly matched with Yi Yu, but looking at it now, I didn't even destroy Yi Yu's defense at all. It's not because Sword Master Bickley's attack is too weak, but because of an important reason. Thinking of this, everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Yes, the reason is that this guy Yi Yu has become stronger again. In just a few days, Yi Yu has really become stronger again. I originally thought that it would be very difficult to grow to Yi Yu's height and take another step forward, which would be as difficult as climbing to the sky. But looking at it now, these bottlenecks do not exist at all for Yi Yu. They had been really watching Yi Yu for so many days. Didn't they just play games in the dormitory every day? However, Yi Yu is indeed more powerful now than before. He can actually withstand damage similar to Yi Yu's attack power before, proving that Yi Yu's strength is at least one level stronger than before. This is simply unbelievable. Yi Yu is probably the only one in the world who can achieve such a terrifying growth rate. This kid is really terrifying. I didn't expect how long it took before he broke through again. Even the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard, showed an extremely jealous look towards Yi Yu. Not to mention Yi Yu, even if he has grown to his level of strength, it will be extremely difficult for him to take a step forward, and Yi Yu's progress speed can be said to be very abnormal. Got it. Golden Conquerors. This boy's Golden Conquerors is so rich. Sword Master Bickley showed an extremely exaggerated expression. Gold Conquerors, this kind of thing, a master like Bickley can naturally master it. But, I don't use it easily. That's because the consumption power of Gold Conquerors is too powerful. It consumes dozens of times more power than ordinary Conquerors. Even if there are more Conquerors in my body, it is impossible. Able to withstand such large-scale consumption. And the kid in front of me actually condensed the Gold Conquerors into pieces that looked like bricks. This made Sword Master Bickley have to show a surprised expression. Could it be that this boy didn't care about his golden conquerors at all? Or, is this kid just pretending to be with himself? That's right, this boy must be playing tricks in front of him. How could his sword master be fooled by this little trick? After thinking about it, the sword master finally believed that Yu was just pretending in front of him. Ren himself would never believe that this boy Yu could use the golden conquerors at will. Chapter 180 Heavenly Dragon Bloodline. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Boy, after releasing such a huge golden conquerors, I guess you don't have much domineering power left in your body. The ferocious-headed Bikali glared angrily at Yu and spoke slowly, which was obvious. There was a hint of teasing in his eyes. Let me guess, you kid must have exhausted all the conquerors in your body in order to protect the Whitebeard pirates. Sword Master Bikali looked at Yu up and down, with a slight smile on his lips, rising. At this moment, Bikali seemed to be a very smart person. Yu showed a very confused expression, yawned, and then took out the earwax in his ears with his hand, looking indifferent. Juggernaut, you are really funny. Aren't you just golden conquerors? To tell you the truth, Lousie's conquerors are endless. Yu revealed his row of big white fang and said harmlessly. In fact, even Yu himself didn't notice the horror of his conquerors at first. Yu just acted as usual. He originally thought that he was just releasing a thin layer of golden conquerors, but now it seems that he was wrong. Unexpectedly, I could produce such a large and rich golden conquerors with just a wave of my hand. This is a golden conquerors. If I had known that when fighting against the coalition forces, as long as I used the golden conquerors, I would only be able to attack 2 or 3 moves. Any more would be too much for me. But this time it was different. After releasing so many golden conquerors, I didn't feel weak at all. On the contrary, after releasing such a large amount of gold conquerors, it was as if I had done some kind of warm-up exercise. Now my whole body's energy and blood feel like they are flowing faster, and my body feels full of strength. It must be because of the last system reward, my conquerors exceeded 10,000 points. 10,000 points later, my own conquerors has directly reached a qualitative change. Now, whether it is the abundance of conquerors in my body or my control over conquerors, I have reached a whole new level. Now the conquerors in his body are endlessly regenerating. It even makes Yu feel uncomfortable and unhappy. Endless. Sword Master Bikali showed a shocked expression. Is there really anyone in this world whose conquerors are endless? In Bikali's impression, if there is one person who has endless conquerors, it would be the great I Am Sama. How could a mere low-level human possess the majestic conqueror's domineering power like I am? The next moment, Sword Master Bikali laughed. Are you kidding, kid? Endless. You think too highly of yourself. There is only one person in this world who can achieve conqueror's endlessness, and that is the god of this world, Lord I Am. Sword Master Bikali roared to the sky, and it is obvious that he respects Lord I Am. I will expose your lies myself, Yu. Sword Master Bikali's eyes were filled with fighting spirit again. The holy sword in his hand actually let out a dragon roar. Most of your gold conquerors are used to protect the Whitebeard pirates. Now, let me see how you hide. Sword Master Bikali said proudly. Conquerors gathered in his body, and for a moment the majestic momentum spread all around. Sword Master Bikali was really like a god in the sky, arrogant. Then he waved the holy sword in his hand vigorously, and in front of the Sword Master Bikali, an extra white dragon appeared. This white dragon was exuding dazzling light and was staring at Yu in front of him with eager eyes. Roar. A dragon roar sounded, and he rushed towards Yu at great speed. The entire space was directly shaken by the dragon's roar, and the long white dragon was surrounded by all kinds of weird lightning. The people on the ground all showed extremely shocked expressions. What kind of weird attack method is this? It can actually cause the entire space to vibrate. Marco, who was on the Whitebeard pirates, looked shocked and suspicious. Ren himself never thought that Bikali would be so terrifying after his transformation. This blow gave me a more terrifying feeling than when Yu fought against the entire World Alliance army. Eagle Eyes Mahawk's sharp eyes like an eagle flashed with a glimmer of light. This attack method injects Conqueror's energy into the sword intent emitted by the holy sword. In this way, as a swordsman, you can achieve the perfect combination of your own domineering power and the attack power of your weapon. He also struck out through the attack method of transformation. My father once told me that this kind of swordsman's method can only be done by gods. Mahawk narrowed his eyes and said. Then I started to think new about the celestial dragons. The celestial dragons are definitely not just like those weaklings that appear all over the world. There are also very terrifying existences among the celestial dragons. The sword master in front of him is a descendant of Yimyu's lineage. It's even more terrifying. The battle with Yu is really hard to say this time. Could it be that Mr. Yu wants to be in this battle with the sword master? Did you stumble? Hawkeye Mahawk is worried. As a great swordsman, at this moment, he is the only one who understands the terror of the enemy better. So Hawkeye Mahawk is worried about Yu's next battle. Yu, couldn't he have consumed all his gold conquerors just to protect us? White-bearded Edward Newgate frowned, showing a worried look on his face. As soon as these words came out, the entire Whitebeard Pirates group had even sad expressions. They only hate themselves at the moment. Facing a battle of this level between Yu and Swordmaster, they can't help at all. There is no way, in front of the real monsters in this world, their fighting power is completely inadequate. Their fate is in the hands of Yi Yu and Swordmaster Bickley. Whichever one of these two people can win will represent the victory of the entire team. Even the world government troops who were working in the laboratory at the moment stopped what they were doing and all looked towards the battlefield. Now they still have to work as a hammer. If Lord Swordmaster can win the final victory, then they will be liberated. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin each had serious eyes. Hey, let me tell you, Kaido, I really didn't expect that there is such a strong guy among the celestial dragons. Sherlock Linlin said. Now think about it, I had the ambition to become One Piece and then conquer the whole world. It is simply a foolish dream. I want to conquer the whole world, but I have to overthrow the Tianlong people. I will never succeed in this life. Kaido also rarely fell into thinking, recalling the days when he was captured by the celestial dragons and put in a laboratory. There are many more powerful forces behind this world than I imagined. Now we can only hope for the victory of the Sword Master. Warring States swallowed his own saliva and said. Even before the Warring States period, they had never known the existence of a figure like the Sword Master. Before the Warring States period was still suspicious, how could those idiots from the Tianlong people rule the world for so many years? Now I finally know the reason. The Tianlong people are not weak at all, and their bloodline seems to be much stronger than the ordinary human race. The second elder looked at the Sword Master in the sky and murmured. Sword Master, Sword Master's strength is unfathomable. The bloodline of the Tianlong people is not something that just Yi Yu can compete with. Ha ha ha. Now Yi Yu is in trouble. The second elder smiled arrogantly at the sky. Sure enough, the Tianlong people will not be overthrown by a young boy so easily. How can a boy shake the foundation they have accumulated over so many years? Chapter 181I, Yi Yu, and the biggest bug. Facing the light dragon rushing towards him, Yi Yu nodded with satisfaction to Bickley. This blow actually surpassed the strongest blow he had unleashed in the battle against the United Army. Tianlong people really don't dare to underestimate them. It's just, what a pity. Although the bloodline of the Tianlong people is indeed powerful, compared to their own, it is still far behind. I have the most powerful bug overlord system in the world. In this world, in terms of bloodline alone, I, a time traveler from Blue Star's own system, is the most terrifying. After thinking about it, Yi Yu also imitated the appearance of Swordmaster Bickley, and directly activated his thoughts in front of him, forming a golden dragon that was the same as the slash released by Swordmaster Bickley. As soon as it appeared, the golden dragon also roared and rushed towards the light dragon in front of it. Bickley frowned slightly. Is it just a simple conqueror's? As a celestial dragon, after his transformation, his perception and appearance were fundamentally different from those of ordinary people. Bickley naturally felt the elements of attack released by Yi Yu. After feeling Yi Yu's conquerors, Swordmaster Bickley relaxed his brows and smiled slightly. Judging from the ingredients alone, Yi Yu's attack is already inferior to his own. Although the simple conqueror's attack is very powerful, it is several times more powerful than the ordinary people's attack method of simply armed color, and even Lu Ying. But it is not the strongest attack method. The most powerful slash in the world is the combination of sword energy and domineering energy. Only the perfect combination of these two things can deliver the strongest blow in the world. And Bickley himself is the person who has mastered this higher level slashing method. Yi Yu, unfortunately, your attack method is inferior to mine. You will definitely not be able to resist this blow. With a terrifying momentum, Bickley flew in the air and roared loudly. It was obvious that Bickley's face was full of arrogance at this time. Yi Yu raised his head slightly, showing an idiotic expression. In the face of absolute strength, any bells and whistles and any technology are useless. You should also feel my conquerors, Bickley. I believe you have never felt such a terrifying conquerors like mine in your life. Yi Yu tilted his head and murmured. He didn't feel any inner fluctuations at all because Bickley's slashing method was on him. Just as the two of them finished speaking, two terrifying attacks suddenly exploded centered on the two of them. There was a loud bang. The whole space was shocked. The white dragon took the lead in attacking Yi Yu's golden conqueror's dragon. Two sharp dragon claws directly grabbed the scales of the golden conqueror's dragon. Then, a scene that surprised Bickley appeared. After the white dragon caught the golden dragon, it didn't even break the scales. On the contrary, the golden dragon just slapped it with his backhand. Boom. It was with this shot that the whole world was shaken. The previous slash that combined his sword energy and domineering energy exploded on the spot at this moment. The leaked energy surged in all directions. On some small islands that were relatively close to each other, the trees on the islands were directly uprooted by the leaked energy. However, everyone in the Whitebeard pirates, and even the captives built at the Yi Yu proving ground, nothing happened to them. Within their field of vision, there are two worlds inside and outside the Conqueror's protective wall. The outside world is full of ruins, the sea is boiling, the ground is shaking, and cracks and pits are everywhere. Like the end of the world. But on my side, nothing happened at all, not even a slight breeze appeared. Whitebeard looked at all this and couldn't help but sigh. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I, Whitebeard, who is known as the strongest man in the world, would have such a day, surrounded by people, and even the aftermath could not be resisted. Whitebeard said with emotion. The most powerful man in his world, he was always the center of attention wherever he went, and was called a monster among monsters. It's always others who watch your battles and then marvel, sigh, and praise. Never thought that one day I could become a passerby and a bystander, the kind of existence that would be affected and harmed if not protected. There is no way, Whitebeard, after all, the person fighting this time is Yi Yu and the strongest of the Tianlong people in 800 years. Golden Lion Shiki slowly came to Whitebeard. The two men were about the same strength, age, and experience. At this time, facing the battle with Yi Yu, they both had the same idea. In the face of the new era, the representatives of the old era like myself are completely inadequate. In fact, it's not a question of the new era and the old era. The main thing is that Yi Yu's combat power is really terrifying. The Whitebeard pirates naturally have characters who represent the new era. That is Yi Yu's little follower, the strange monk Ulki. At this time, Ulki froze on the spot, his eyes widening. This battle is even more terrifying than the previous battles. He didn't expect that Mr. Yi Yu, after releasing so many conquerors and protecting everyone, would be able to gather such conquerors to fight the Sword Master. Chapter 182. This is the worst era. And, the most terrifying thing is, looking at the battle in the sky, it seems that Yi Yu has completely suppressed the Sword Master Baikali at this time. Sure enough, in the sky above the entire battlefield, the sacred sword dragon was directly hit by Yi Yu's slash, leaving nothing behind. The golden dragon roared as it slammed into Baikali's body. Sword Master Baikali's face was shocked, his pupils shrank, and he showed an extremely solemn expression. How could it be, that my domineering strike mixed with sword intent was instantly stopped by Yi Yu's blow? Sword Master Baikali revealed himself incredible expression. Even though his slashes were weaker than Yi Yu's attacks, he never thought that he would end up being killed instantly. My own cutting method should obviously be stronger than that of Yi Yu. That being said, there is only one way to explain it. That is that Yi Yu's conquerors is really terrifying. Only in the face of absolute power will this attack of yours fail. Thinking of this, a large amount of sweat broke out on the forehead of Swordmaster Baikali. This seemingly harmless guy in front of me is actually so terrifying, just like Lord I Am. Unexpectedly, such a young kid could reach the height of Lord I Am. The thought of this even made the Swordmaster Baikali shudder, and he had an inexplicable hallucination. This kid was an alien. It's hard to believe that in this world, an ordinary human's talent is so high. In terms of talent alone, he has even become a god, Lord I Am, who transcends this world. While murmuring, the golden dragon was already charging towards his direction. Sword Master Baikali did not dare to be careless. The holy sword in his hand was shining brightly, and his conqueror's domineering energy was continuously injected into it. Holy light and domineering were perfectly combined, and a strange substance appeared. Sword Master Baikali took the holy sword in his hand and drew a square defensive shield in front of himself. Yi Yu frowned. This sword master's defense was really a bug. Fortunately, this defensive shield could only resist attacks from one side. If you can resist attacks from all directions, it will be really difficult to deal with the sword master. However, after he has analyzed the ability of Sword Master Baikali, it will be difficult for Sword Master Baikali to completely prevent his attacks. When the golden dragon was about to reach the defensive cover of Sword Master Baikali, suddenly the yellow light around the dragon's scales became strong. Whoosh! There was only a yellow afterimage left in front of Sword Master Baikali. Sword Master Baikali was shocked that such a terrifying blow just now could suddenly disappear. He could be sure that it was not his own defensive shield that absorbed Yi Yu's attack. With his sword in one state, he could clearly sense the energy absorbed by his holy sword. But, where did such a horrific attack go? Just when the sword master was puzzled, roar. A dragon roar sounded again. A giant golden dragon suddenly appeared directly behind Baikali. And what shocked Baikali even more was that the speed of this conqueror's dragon was even faster than the previous one. Baikali's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly took the holy sword, preparing to draw a square barrier behind him for defense. It's just. The golden conqueror's dragon's body glowed with yellow light, and it suddenly attacked the body of Swordmaster Baikali in just an instant. Even after the transformation, Baikali's body defense quality was extremely terrifying and he was protected by domineering armor. However, under the attack of Yi Yu's golden conqueror's dragon, blood still surged from the impact, and his entire body and clothes were also damaged by the horrific explosion aftermath, the tatters of the impact. Puff puff puff. A large amount of blood spurted out from Baikali's mouth. Sword Master Baikali also fell heavily from the sky, with an expression of disbelief on his face. The attack just now was as fast as lightning. He had no chance to stop it. And, the feeling of conquerors given to me is very strong. The combination of extreme speed and extreme power, thought the Sword Master Baikali as he slipped in the air. In fact, on the golden conqueror's dragon just now, Yi Yu increased the ability of his shining fruit, which made the already very powerful conqueror's speed become very fast. This is why the Sword Master Baikali cannot escape the past. The strong collision sound resounded throughout the sky, and the entire sea boiled with it. Under such circumstances, Sword Master Baikali fell straight to the ground. With a bang, a large number of ruins were stirred up on a small island, and they were buried in piles of rocks. The whole battle was very fast. Although the time was short, the destructive power was very huge. The entire Whitebeard pirates group swallowed their saliva. Was Sword Master Baikali just solved by Yi Yu like this? It's much faster than expected. I originally thought that the Sword Master Baikali should be at the same level as Yi Yu, but looking at it now, they are not at the same level at all. Everyone in the coalition army also widened their eyes, among which the expression of the second elder of the five elders was the most exaggerated. The second elder was seen swallowing his saliva frantically, with a dull look on his face, and looked towards the island where the sword master fell. He opened his mouth wide and murmured. No, no, Master Sword Master, you actually lost. The strongest swordsman among the Tianlong people for 800 years, the sword master who was called the successor of Yi Mu, was defeated by Yi Yu so quickly. The second elder's face was full of shock. Among these people, he was the only one who knew the strength of the sword master best. No one understands the terror of the sword master better than himself, and Yi Yu actually defeated all the sword masters. This is incredible. Sengoku's glasses reflected a dazzling white light, and he froze in place, and finally spoke. Sword master, isn't even sword master a match for Yi Yu? Warring States frowned. If the sword master is not Yi Yu's opponent, then only the real ruler I am in this world can fight with Yi Yu, that scary guy. Boldly imagine, if even Yi Mu is not Yi Yu's opponent, then this world will be completely overturned. The worst of times. This is the worst of times. Chapter 183 Sword Master. An inferior human being withstood my full blow. Garp on the side also widened his eyes. He had really been called the hero of Marine for many years. He thought that his strength was terrifying enough in this world. After all, even One Piece Roger was defeated by himself. However, now that I think about it, these achievements are nothing to mention. In front of Yi Yu, his own strength is weak and even a little pitiful. Just when people were shocked by Yi Yu's terrifying abilities, the island where Sword Master Bickley was located started to tremble. Feeling the vibrations all around, the people around them once again focused their attention on the Sword Master Bickley. Under the eyes of everyone, the Sword Master Bickley, who was still dying before, stood up again this time. This time, the appearance of Sword Master Bickley changed drastically again. The hair on his head became very long again, and the muscles on his body suddenly doubled in size. Although the beastly appearance on his face was reduced, he still had the look of a demon king. His eyes emitted green light, his mouth was big, but his nose seemed to have been cut off. Bickley looked at Yi Yu in the sky and suddenly laughed. Heh 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 heh, Yi Yu, I didn't expect that a brat like you could actually reach the level of our lineage of gods. Open your eyes and look, this is what our god clan looks like. I will kill everyone here. Ha 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 ha. Anyone who has seen the face of God, no matter who they are, cannot stay. This is Lord Im's order. Sword Master Bickley was ferocious. Said. The turbulent momentum was emitted from the body of the Sword Master Bickley. This time, it was different from the feeling that the Holy Sword gave people in the past. This time, it gave people a very cold feeling, which made people feel nauseous. Yi Yu, who was in the sky, also became interested. He turned his gaze to the Sword Master and murmured a comment. I really didn't expect that the celestial dragons could become like this. And this aura feels very evil. Now there is no trace of Bickley as a descendant of God. He completely looks like a demon king. Yi Yu's eyes became solemn. In that case, my guess should be correct. The Tianlong people are the real usurpers of this world. This is also the reason why the Tianlong people hide so much history, and the so-called Final Island is likely to record such things. Of course, this is just Yi Yu's guess, but it's certainly possible. Ho 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 ho. Go to hell, Yi Yu. Sword Master Bickley laughed in the air. After laughing, he appeared in front of Yi Yu in just an instant. The holy sword in his hand was still radiating dazzling light, and he slashed hard at Yi Yu's head. Under the strong slash, the entire space was torn open with a gap in space. From the gap in space, you could actually see the sizzling current. Yi Yu narrowed his eyes. The speed of Sword Master Bickley was indeed faster than before. Unexpectedly, the Sword Master Bickley is still in this state. In this state, Bickley's speed and strength seem to have increased several times. However, it seems that his mind has also become unclear, which is probably one of the reasons why Bickley has been hiding his state. There was a loud bang. It was like a bell reverberating throughout the sky, and the entire sky was vibrating. Even the Whitebeard pirates on the ground, as well as the Alliance army and others, were shaken by this loud noise, and their ears were ringing. Although the strong slash did not penetrate Yi Yu, the kilometer-long slash wave impacted all around, and finally exploded in a building 1 kilometer away from here. With a bang, 18 connected mountains were suddenly moved to the ground. On the battlefield, a large number of sparks appeared on Bickley's holy sword. It was just Yi Yu's Super Conqueror's defensive shield, so how could the Sword Master Bickley be able to break through it? Yes, my latest Super Conquerors, you can actually penetrate 1 centimeter. It seems that you are quite strong. Yi Yu said in amazement. The Super Conqueror's defensive shield is different from the previous Conqueror's range. It only covers a distance of 1 decimeter around Yi Yu. The blow of Sword Master Bickley after his transformation can break through a distance of 1 centimeter, which is already considered very impressive. It's so difficult. What? Sword Master Bickley was completely angered after hearing Yi Yu's words. This kind of naked ridicule is something that I, a superior Tianlong, have never felt before. Feeling that his self-esteem had been humiliated, the Sword Master Bickley inserted his hand into his hair and started howling like a ghost. Impossible. Impossible. You, an inferior human being, can't possibly withstand my full blow. Sword Master Bickley said in disbelief with an exaggerated and weird expression. The enraged Sword Master Bickley picked up the big sword in his hand again and swung it at Yi Yu again and again. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Lines of sword light appeared in front of Yi Yu, and the entire field of vision was filled with sword lights and shadows. Every attack that hits Yi Yu's Super Conqueror's defensive shield can hit a large number of sparks, and the surrounding space also explodes, and space gaps appear one after another. The surrounding space was also stirred up by the aftermath of these slashes, causing chaos. The aftermath of the slashes struck into the distance, and an explosion occurred in the distance. Boom, boom, boom. Within the entire territory of the Whitebeard pirates, within a unit with a radius of 1,000 kilometers, there are traces of destruction left by slashing attacks everywhere. Fortunately, there are not many people around here, otherwise, the area within 1,000 kilometers will become a purgatory on Earth. However, this still alarmed the people who were far away from the battlefield. These residents poked their heads out one by one, showing extremely exaggerated expressions. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? A young man asked confusedly from his home, looking around with his head. Feeling the ground shaking, one by one they came to the street and began to look around. Is there some kind of natural disaster coming? Do we have to run away? I don't think it's a natural disaster, but it looks like someone is fighting. Stop joking. Could this be the impact of people fighting? Is this man a god? Don't forget, in our world, there is now a Yi Yu. Even the 4 emperors can only be killed with one blow in front of him. The resident retorted. This made the people around them quiet down, and they patiently felt the direction of the vibration. Sure enough, it was released from Yi Yu's territory. Chapter 184 Im's lineage. It's really possible that it's Yi Yu. It's just, who will be fighting Yi Yu this time? On the battlefield, Bickley was still roaring loudly, which frightened the second elder of the 5 elders who was on the ground. Listening to the crazy, heart-rending strange screams in the sky, looking at the extremely ugly and ferocious face of the Sword Master. Even though I have come into contact with the Sword Master, the impression this Sword Master has given me has always been that he is aloof, unusually mysterious and calm. But now the Sword Master is like a child, it can even be said that he has become a madman. This surprised the second elder. Apart from I am, the only person in the world who can drive the Sword Master crazy is Yi Yu. People around him, such as Marine executives, Sengoku, Cyborg Kong, Garp and others, all frowned. One by one, they looked at the sky with surprised expressions. Is this a celestial dragon? Why does it feel like a monster? Garp, the most upright person, spoke first. Sengoku hurriedly pulled Garp's body with his arm, signaling Garp not to talk nonsense. Garp frowned directly, he really couldn't figure out, could the celestial dragons that Marine had always protected be just this kind of thing? Lieutenant General he also walked over slowly at this time. Just now, Sword Master Bickley said it himself, everyone who sees his face will die. This naturally includes us, the warring states period. Lieutenant General he said with lowered eyes. After hearing this, Sengoku stood there blankly. Did the celestial dragons he had been protecting actually want to wipe out all the Marines? The Garp race couldn't help but start roaring. What bullshit celestial dragons. I have long disliked them. I didn't expect that they represent the darkness of this world. I will not forgive them. Garp said angrily. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates also looked at the sky. Are the celestial dragons actually so virtuous? White-bearded Edward Newgate murmured. Yes, the true face of the Tianlong people. Hehehehe, I have long wanted to overthrow the world ruled by these guys. The golden lion held a cigar in his mouth and trembled at the corner of his mouth, showing a look of contempt. You must know that the Tianlong people have been promoting that their bloodline is extremely noble. Looking at it now, the so-called noble bloodline is nothing more than that. Among these people was a celestial dragon, Doflamingo. At this time, Doflamingo looked very strange. I am also a celestial dragon, but I know my face very well, it is not like that at all. I once stayed in Mariajoya, and none of the draconians I came into contact with looked like this. But, there is a kind of person that even I have not come into contact with. I do remember that some Tianlong people said that only that lineage is different from ours. Doflamingo said with serious eyes. People around him also became interested and looked at Doflamingo one after another. Only one lineage? Marco asked doubtfully. Yes, that lineage is Im's lineage. Their status is more noble than that of ordinary Tianlong people. It's almost impossible to see them. Rumor has it that they have the power of gods. Looking at it now, bullshit is nothing more than a group of usurper demons. Doflamingo said directly. Is it Im's lineage? People around him sighed with emotion, it seemed that the descendant of the real god was the real usurper, the evil guy. On the battlefield, Sword Master Bickley's holy sword was still waving, but, facing Yi Yu, it did no harm at all. At most, it only caused slight ripples in Yi Yu's Super Conqueror's defensive shield. Looking at the crazy guy Bickley with messy hair in front of him, Yi Yu showed a disdainful smile. What a bullshit transformation to make yourself look so ugly, but your fighting ability is still so weak. Yi Yu said disdainfully. After hearing this, Sword Master Bickley became even more angry. D Yi Yu. I will definitely tear you apart with my own hands. Sword Master Bickley shouted loudly. Then he picked up the holy sword in his hand, and the domineering energy merged with the holy light on the holy sword, forming a strange space. Sword Master Bickley took out the holy sword in his hand. A space opened up on the holy sword again, and then Sword Master Bickley swung it at Yi Yu fiercely. A space-devouring slash suddenly appeared. Yi Yu narrowed his eyes. The method that the Sword Master Bickley used to defend before was now used by the Sword Master to attack. And this method works very well. It can be seen that even the space under the slash collapsed and was absorbed somewhere. In the Whitebeard pirates area, those who were watching the battle also widened their eyes. It can be seen with the naked eye that the entire space in the sky has indeed collapsed, leaving only a ball of darkness. The weird space power, after coming into contact with Yi Yu's super conquerors, really swallowed up Yi Yu's super conquerors. Yi Yu. The people below began to roar in shock. This was the first time they had encountered such a terrifying opponent. Although they had fought against Yi Yu before, it was hard to tell how much stronger the Swordmaster Bickley was than Yi Yu. However, looking at it now, Swordmaster Bickley has too much weird energy in him. The means used to resist Yi Yu's defense before can now be used to attack, which no one expected. Damn it, even Yi Yu's Conqueror's domineering power will lose its effect in the face of this weird energy. Marco looked incredulous. The Empress Hancock on the side was even more anxious and stamped her feet, but there was nothing she could do. With his own level of combat power, joining the battle will have no effect at all. The aftermath outside the walls of Yi Yu's Golden Conquerors is not something that a mere Shichibukai like him can resist. Going out on his own will only cause more trouble for Yi Yu. Even the people working as laborers at the testing site looked at the Swordmaster Bickley on the battlefield. Garp had a sad look on his face. He didn't want Swordmaster Bickley to win now. Before, Swordmaster Bickley once said that anyone who sees his face will die. Sengoku, pay attention. If Bickley wins, our enemy will be the Swordmaster. He just released so many attacks. After defeating Yi Yu, he must be in a very weak state. Gather the strength of all of us. Maybe we can kill him. Garp said with a gloomy face as black lines appeared in his eyes. Garp. You guy, Sengoku said, clenching his fists. However, I can't choose. The people I loyal to are just the rebels in this world. Chapter 185 Conqueror's Realm. The second elder among the 5 elders is completely helpless. He originally planned to take himself back to Mariajoya after Swordmaster Bickley won the victory, but now it seems that it is impossible. I.M. was very concerned about the concealment of his family's bloodline, and even his 5 elders and the other 19 heavenly dragons from other countries did not tell them. Moreover, I once heard Lord I.M. reveal that except for people of their race, anyone who knows the secrets of their race should not stay in this world. Even if he ran over and begged Lord I.M. to let the Swordmaster spare his life, I'm afraid Lord I.M. wouldn't agree. If you don't do it, you won't stop. Fight him. Even the second elder also agreed. This made the people around, especially Cyborg Kong and Sengoku, feel surprised. They did not expect that 5 elders, a loyal supporter of the Tianlong people, would actually say such words. In fact, 5 elders doesn't care about so many things. Of course, life saving is the first priority. While everyone was talking about it, on the battlefield, Yi Yu just frowned slightly when facing Bickley's strange blow. The next moment, Yi Yu disappeared with the entire space. Ha ha ha, die, kid, you still want to challenge the power of gods. It's simply overestimating one's capabilities. Ha 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 ha. Swordmaster Bickley still had a ferocious look on his face at this time and began to laugh crazily. This laughter mixed with his own domineering spirit spread throughout the area of the Whitebeard pirates, making the onlookers feel trembling in their hearts. Yi Yu, actually failed. Yi Yu's little follower, the weird monk Yerki, said blankly, unable to believe the scene in front of him. A-hole, this guy actually killed Captain Yi Yu. I want revenge. The blue flames on Marco's body glowed brightly and turned into a blue phoenix. And Diamond Josie, Foil Beasta and others have also started their fighting state. The Whitebeard pirates are not people who are afraid of death. They were under the protection of conquerors before because they were afraid of affecting Yi Yu's attack progress, but it's different now. Yi Yu has been defeated, and they have no worries. The worst possible outcome is death, and we must avenge Yi Yu. The shock fruit ability in Whitebeard's hand has been activated. He squinted his eyes and stared at Bickley in the sky, preparing to launch his own attack on Swordmaster Bickley immediately. The momentum of the entire Whitebeard pirates group suddenly rose, and even the sea around them began to boil. Swordmaster Bickley felt the anger of the Whitebeard pirates below, and instead laughed disdainfully. Ha 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 ha, you, low-class humans, want to fight me? Even Yi Yu died at my hands, what can you do to me? I will kill you together with the coalition forces. Swordmaster Bickley said coldly. This made these coalition prisoners frown one by one. It seemed that even they would have to be buried with them. At this moment, a lazy voice came over. Hey, Bickley, you don't really think you can defeat me? Yi Yu was currently behind Swordmaster Bickley, holding his fists and staring at the crazy guy in front of him. Swordmaster Bickley was immediately frightened. Yi Yu was obviously hit by his swallowing slash just now. Even Yi Yu's conquerors was swallowed. This is what he saw with his own eyes. But, now Yi Yu appears directly in front of him, how can this not scare people? Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates also looked surprised, and all of them were happy. Ha 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 ha, Yi Yu, what are you doing, kid? You scared us all into a cold sweat. Yi Yu, you are such a scary guy. Marco gave Yi Yu a roll of his eyes. This guy is really elusive. He didn't expect to show up like this. The blow just now seemed to have no impact on Yi Yu at all. Ha 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 ha, I have already guessed that this boy Yi Yu will be fine. Whitebeard laughed heartily. You, this guy, how is it possible? I have obviously defeated you. Swordmaster Bickley said with an exaggerated expression. Yi Yu curled the corner of his mouth slightly and continued to speak. It's easy for me to dodge your attack. Yi Yu continued to stare closely at the Sword Master and spoke mysteriously. Do you feel it? What do you feel? Sword Master Baikali looked confused, not quite understanding what Yi Yu meant. Then let me remind you, have you felt my conquerors around you? Yi Yu said lightly, with a confident expression on his face. Conquerors around. Sword Master Baikali was a little confused, but he felt these things himself. He had noticed this since the beginning of the battle with Yi Yu. There were plenty of conquerors around, but I didn't even notice it. The war is about to begin, and there are no minions around, but he distributes his conquerors around. In the opinion of Sword Master Baikali, this is a very stupid behavior. Putting so much domineering energy around without intending to use it in battle, this. If it's not a brain problem, it's because the conqueror's control is not strong enough. Seeing Baikali's confused expression, Yi Yu shook his head slightly. It seemed that if he didn't tell him, he would never be able to figure it out if he relied on the idiot in front of him. You are really stupid, Baikali. Or are you relatively ignorant, haven't come into contact with Conqueror's field yet? Yi Yu smiled slightly and said confidently. Field. Sword Master Baikali's eyes suddenly became serious. Conqueror's field. In this Conqueror's field, I had heard Lord I Am mention it before, when I encountered a bottleneck. At the beginning, I Am Sama told himself that he could try to distribute his conquerors evenly around to create a domain-specific skill. It's just, this kind of field requires a lot of conquerors. Even if it's 100 meters away, my own conquerors won't be enough to last long. Coupled with the need for even distribution, this undoubtedly adds to the difficulty again. Therefore, regarding the term Conqueror's Field, I have heard Lord I Am say it, but I have never understood it or tried to use Conqueror's Field to fight. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites shared the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 186 Within the Realm, I Am the Master. Conquerors. Realm. Sword Master Baikali frowned. That's right, in this realm, I am a god. I am a god, Yi Yu murmured with a slight curl of the corner of his mouth. You are god. Sword Master Baikali showed a fearful look. What an exaggerated brat. He even claims to be the god in this world. Do you want to compete with Lord I Am? Boy, don't utter such arrogant words. You're just lucky enough to have escaped my attack. You claim to be a god, but you think too highly of yourself. There is only one god in this world, and that is Lord I Am. Sword Master Baikali shouted loudly. Then, the holy sword in his hand glowed brightly, and he launched another attack after another at Yi Yu. Because these attacks are mixed with the power of the holy sword, they can swallow up the surrounding space. Therefore, the space in front of Yi Yu's vision was directly opened one after another. After one of the gaps came into contact with Yi Yu's Conqueror's defensive shield, Yi Yu's Conqueror's defensive shield completely disappeared. In his own field, Yi Yu narrowed his eyes as he felt the disappearing Conqueror's defensive shield. Finally got it. These attacks by Baikali did not destroy my defense at all, but were more like a spatial ability. My defensive shield must have been converted to another dimension. This looks a lot like Kamui from the Hokage ninja anime. It can indeed be called a good skill. Yi Yu nodded slightly and expressed his praise for Baikali. I think you relied on that knife to achieve this kind of attack, Baikali. I never thought that a ferocious guy like you could use such a weapon. Yi Yu said mockingly. Baikali's weapons do give people a sacred feeling, and they don't match the evil character of Sword Master Baikali at all. A-hole, lousy as a descendant of God. Sword Master Baikali roared loudly. Then one attack after another rushed towards Yi Yu. The Whitebeard pirates below, as well as the coalition prisoners, all looked nervous again. If Yi Yu is killed, then if these people want to survive, they must have a life and death battle with the Sword Master Baikali. Yi Yu on the battlefield smiled slightly and murmured to the Sword Master Baikali. I said, within this realm, I am the king and I am the master. A series of sharp spatial slashes appeared in front of Yi Yu, whose expression was calm. The moment the sharp slash was about to touch Yi Yu disappeared out of thin air. There was not a single ripple, not a single movement, and he really disappeared from before Baikali. The next moment, Yi Yu appeared on the other side. Baikali's eyes were shocked and he continued to attack desperately. A sharp space slash appeared again and struck in the direction of Yi Yu. Yi Yu shook his head. Baikali still didn't seem to understand. No matter how many times he attacked, the Sword Master's attack would never hit him. The next moment, just when the Sword Master's space slash came into contact with Yi Yu disappeared strangely again. Sword Master Baikali has activated his Celestial Dragon vision to the extreme, but he still didn't notice Yi Yu's existence. This time, Sword Master Baikali completely collapsed. He also believed that Yi Yu had the absolute strength to dodge his attack. This kid really disappeared out of thin air. Wait, disappeared out of thin air. Could it be that? Sword Master Baikali's eyes suddenly widened as he realized something very important. This is space ability. This is not teleportation at all, but spatial ability. Sword Master Baikali shouted loudly, with an extremely surprised look in his eyes. If you are teleporting, you will definitely be able to perceive the color of what you see and hear. And, the reason why I didn't sense it was obviously because Yi Yu's ability was exactly space ability. Unlike himself, he needed the power of the Holy Sword to have spatial abilities, but Yi Yu actually used his own strength to activate his spatial abilities. Thinking of this, Sword Master Baikali was completely frightened, and a lot of sweat broke out on his forehead. This guy Yi Yu has the same ability as Lord I am. This makes me not frightened and scared inside. Hey, you finally noticed, Bickley, I have the ability to move to any space in this area. Yi Yu said with a slight smile. Yi Yu, who appeared behind Sword Master Bickley, frightened Bickley with his faint words. If Yi Yu suddenly appeared behind him before, it was because the Sword Master was surprised. Now that he knows Yi Yu's spatial ability, Sword Master Bickley is frightened after all. Within this realm, Yi Yu is the king, and that's true. Appearing in any space at any time, the meaning is obvious. If Yi Yu wants to kill himself, it will be easy. After Yi Yu finished speaking, he gathered a huge fist from behind him, which was also mixed with the power of thunder and lightning. The terrifying electric current wrapped around Conqueror's fist. From time to time, a sizzling sound was made, and a terrifying momentum was emitted from Yi Yu's body, suppressing the Sword Master Bickley. The terrifying aura caused Sword Master Bickley's body to tremble slightly. Sword Master Bickley noticed his trembling body and showed an extremely surprised look. I didn't believe what I was seeing at all. As a descendant of Master Yimu, I was known as the first person in the past 800 years besides Master Yimu. How had I ever experienced the feeling of panic? In the past 800 years, he had killed countless old monsters who knew nothing about the world. No matter how terrifying a rebel is, when faced with his true strength, his feet will tremble with fear. He really never thought that one day he would experience the feelings of these people. For the first time in his life, Sword Master Bickley experienced the feeling of a terrifying fight. This feeling was very uncomfortable. In order to cheer himself up, Sword Master Bickley rushed towards Yi Yu crazily again. In just a blink of an eye, he was in front of Yi Yu, and struck Yi Yu hard with the holy sword in his hand. However, all he cut was air. Chapter 187 Shooting Down the Juggernaut. The huge slash was 1,000 meters long, and the aftermath of the slash hit the ground heavily. This blow was nothing to Yi Yu, but to this world, it was very terrifying. The aftermath of the kilometer-long slash directly drew a long mark on the sky. At this moment, the heaven and earth seemed to be cut apart. The aftermath of the huge slash hit an island, and the entire island was instantly split into two. Boom. Boom. The entire island collapsed in an instant. Immediately after this slashing wave, it continued to impact forward, and finally fell into the sea, and the entire sea was split into two in an instant. Huge waves surged toward the surroundings, and powerful currents spread over the entire sky. The entire sky was covered by the sea, and the entire ground was dark. The Whitebeard pirates who were located under the Golden Conqueror's wall were shocked when they saw Sword Master Bickley's attack. Yi Yu faced such a terrifying opponent, but even a terrifying opponent like the Sword Master still struck such a blow in front of Yi Yu. Captain Yi Yu is really terrifying. After taking care of the Sword Master Bickley, the next one is I am. On the battlefield, Yi Yu narrowed his eyes and smiled slightly. How many times have I told you, Juggernaut, no matter how hard you struggle, you can't hit me, Bickley. This time, Yi Yu appeared directly in front of Sword Master Bickley, and then the Conqueror's giant fist condensed above his head hit Sword Master Bickley hard. Sword Master Bickley's pupils dilated directly. He tried to dodge but was completely unable to dodge. Yi Yu's speed was too fast, and with his sudden appearance, he couldn't catch what he saw before. Before the defensive shield of the holy sword in the hand of Sword Master Bickley was cut out, the huge Super Conqueror's giant fist hit the body of Sword Master Bickley hard. Puff. Blood spurted out wildly, scattering across the entire sky. Sword Master Bickley's body slammed downwards, straight towards the Golden Conqueror's wall released by Yi Yu, which was also accompanied by the thick and solid Conqueror's giant fist. The Whitebeard pirates below all widened their eyes. Are you kidding me? Does this guy Yi Yu want to kill us too? Marco said directly and speechlessly. Yes, this guy Yi Yu, with his fighting power so strong, will he smash our Conqueror's defense shield directly? Foil Beasta trembled his lips and murmured he said softly. After hearing the sound of the Foil Beasta, the people around them all lost their composure at all. Some people even started shouting directly at Yi Yu in the sky. Hey, Yi Yu, what do you want to do? Don't you want to kill us too? Stop it, Yi Yu. The pirates of the Whitebeard pirates said one by one, shouting loudly. Yi Yu was high up in the sky and shook his head helplessly. These people were really serious. What were they thinking? Although he was a bit lazy on weekdays, he was not stupid enough to do so. How could he kill one of his own by mistake? Where is it? My own Golden Conqueror's wall can be said to be very strong. It is mixed with my own Golden Conqueror's, which is very powerful in itself. In addition, the Conquerors contained in the wall are very abundant. It can be said that it is difficult to break open. My own Golden Conqueror's wall is very strong. Although Conqueror's giant fist is also terrifying, when it comes into contact with the Sword Master Bickley, a large part of its strength has been relieved, so it will not destroy Conqueror's barrier at all. Sure enough, as Yi Yu expected, Sword Master Bickley brought Conqueror's giant fist and hit it heavily on the barrier. With a loud bang, the entire Conqueror's barrier made a loud noise that resounded throughout the world, which made the people under Conqueror's defensive shield trembled inwardly. Rock. The Whitebeard pirates below are really worried that this will break a huge hole in their Conqueror's defense shield. The strange monk Ulki, Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo, opened their eyes one by one, swallowed the saliva in their mouths, and stood blankly below, their hands trembling a little. There is no doubt that if the blow just now really penetrated, if you break the Conqueror's barrier and throw it down at them, they will definitely be killed on the spot. It was after this blow that Yi Yu's Conqueror's giant fist dissipated and turned into streams of energy leaking out, impacting in all directions. Under the huge energy leakage, all the islands in the territory of the Whitebeard pirates were gradually disintegrated under the impact of this energy. The entire sea directly formed a vacuum zone due to the leakage of this terrifying energy. A large amount of seawater rushed into the sky. After reaching the highest point in the sky, it suddenly slid down, crashing. Huffing. As soon as it fell to the ground, huge waves once again hit the waters of the Whitebeard pirates. A large amount of seawater even washed directly onto the island where the Whitebeard pirates were. The Whitebeard pirates on the island once again widened their eyes. Tsunami. It's a tsunami. The members of the Whitebeard pirates shouted loudly. However, Marco, Josie, Ace and many other elite captains of the Whitebeard pirates all showed fearful expressions. There were a large number of devil fruit users among them, and the most fearful one was this area. The sea. If they were eroded by this sea, they would become weak and powerless in an instant. Wow, huge waves crashed onto the Conqueror's defensive shield, and were cut in half directly. They hit all the surrounding areas. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates exhaled a sigh of relief. Even Edward Newgate, the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, breathed out a breath of air. This scene happened to be seen by the Golden Lion on the side. The Golden Lion walked towards Whitebeard, slapped Whitebeard on the shoulder with his hand, and then left. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect that Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world like you, would be so frightened when facing Yi Yu with just the aftermath. Golden Lion said with a smirk on his face. When Golden Lion said this, Whitebeard immediately felt that he couldn't hold back his old face anymore. Hey, old lion, what are you talking nonsense about? Why should I be frightened? Am I not a good person? Do you think I am a guy like Marco who has never seen a big scene? Whitebeard said quibbly. After Marco heard Whitebeard's evaluation of himself, he rolled his eyes at his captain. The Golden Lion had no intention of letting Whitebeard go. Oh, really? When I looked at you just now, I was so surprised that I was breathing a lot nervously. The Golden Lion approached Whitebeard with a smile on his face. Chapter 188 The Swordmaster is arrested and will never be arrogant again. Whitebeard began to curse at the Golden Lion. This B*****************, D, the Golden Lion, must be as shocked as himself, but this guy didn't show it on purpose. Moreover, this despicable guy must have been staring at him just now. See for yourself. Otherwise, I just exhaled a long breath for so long, and it would be impossible for anyone to notice it. You old lion, you still have the nerve to criticize me. Have you forgotten that when you first came to the Whitebeard pirates, you were beaten to pieces by Yi Yu? Ha ha ha, at that time, I didn't look at you at all. Not calm, even, a little embarrassed, ha ha ha. Whitebeard began to directly mock the Golden Lion. After hearing this, Golden Lion's old face immediately turned red. You must know that these two are representative strong men in the old era. The appearance at this time can be said to be very funny. The two of them started making noise here like children. The other members also had heated discussions about this battle. Oh my god, it's outrageous to say that this guy Yi Yu is so strong, the second elder murmured. This time, I can be sure that Master Sword Master is really going to finish his game. Even if he doesn't die, he will probably be severely disabled. The second elder made a 10-point. With an exaggerated expression, he spoke. In fact, even if the second elder did not speak, the people around him knew very well that such a heavy blow on the body would result in death or disability. The strong sound of the heavy blow just now made them feel anxious in their hearts. A tremor. In fact, these people are beginning to feel sorry for the Sword Master Bickley. Warring States clenched his fists even more. Even the Sword Master was easily defeated by Yi Yu. Now the only person in the world who can defeat Yi Yu is Lord I Am. If Master Yi Mu fails again, it is Yi Yu who has the final say in this world. It is hard to say how he and his group will be dealt with in the future. The whole world belongs to Yi Yu. What's the use of giving Yi Yu compensation and the land for compensation? At this time, Garp, an old naughty boy, clapped his hands and secretly cheered. This guy, Sword Master Beakley, still wants to kill us all. Ha ha ha, you didn't expect it. Now that I have ended up like this, I want to see how to kill us. Garp said with a loud laugh, without any thought. Pay attention to the expressions of people around you. The three generals also showed shocked expressions. You know, the three generals have teamed up against Yi Yu many times before. Although they did not take any advantage against Yi Yu, the only time they took advantage was Yi Yu's deliberate. Their IQs were also criticized. Yi Yu pressed it to the ground and rubbed it hard. But now, let them fight Yi Yu again. Whether the three of them are the veteran generals Aokiji, Kizaru, or the new general Momosugi, I don't think any of them would dare to have such an idea again. If any of them had this idea, then you can be sure that they must have had a funny brain. The two typical representatives of the pirate sect, Big Mom and Beast Kaido, also widened their eyes. How long had he been a prisoner? How long had it been since the last war? I really didn't expect that the scenes of the last war were still lingering in their minds, so soon Yi Yu would be captured again shocked them. Hey, let me tell you, Kaido, Yi Yu, this kid, with this kind of terrifying fighting power, I think it won't be long before we can achieve our captain's highest wish. Auntie blinked her long eyelashes twice, murmured. You mean, what Captain Rox wants to achieve most? Kaido swallowed his own saliva. Isn't the biggest goal of that terrifying Captain Rox to rule the world? Even Captain Rox, Goal has affected the two of them. The two of them have also thought about joining forces to launch a war on a historic scale. The grandest war. But now they no longer dare to have such thoughts in their hearts. Yi Yu's level of combat power is simply not something that the two of them can compete with. Not to mention Yi Yu, even other characters, such as Swordmaster Bickley, or even Five Elders, Chang'e and their lives, would probably be difficult to surpass. And these people, are all Yi Yu's their defeated generals are far from the strongest combat power in the world. If they continue to dream of starting a war that will shock the whole world, and rule the world unless they show off their brains. And the Swordmaster Bickley in the sky rolled a few times on Yi Yu's Conqueror's city wall, and finally hit the ground heavily. There was a loud bang. A huge hole was formed on the entire ground. This hole penetrated all the way and even submerged directly into the sea. The Swordmaster Bickley, who fell into the sea, completely lost his consciousness and was floating on the sea, in danger of being swallowed by the sea at any time. Yi Yu in the sky was like a god, slowly falling from the sky, and finally disappeared into the crowd of the Whitebeard pirates, and the entire Conqueror's city wall also disappeared without a trace. At this point, the sudden appearance of the Swordmaster Bickley in the sky and the unexpected incident caused to the Whitebeard pirates are over. The people around gathered Yi Yu again. Everyone was very excited. I really didn't expect that such a terrifying existence as the Swordmaster would be easily defeated by Yi Yu. The strange monk Yerki took the lead in coming to Yi Yu and began to say excitedly. The Empress Hancock on the side also walked over excitedly, looking at Yi Yu with admiration. For herself, she has hated the celestial dragons since she was very young, and this time Yi Yu directly defeated a celestial dragon who was said to be the strongest in 800 years in front of everyone. This undoubtedly made the Empress Hancock admire Yi Yu even more. Mr. Yi Yu, you are really amazing. I didn't expect your fighting power to be so strong. Even the Sword Master was defeated by you in just 1 or 2 moves. Empress Hancock's cheeks turned red, with an expression of admiration and excitement on his face. He looked at Yi Yu with watery eyes. Others, such as the elite captains of the Whitebeard pirates, shouted to Yi Yu one by one to express their respect. Yi Yu dug out his ears with his hands. He had long been used to their behavior. At this time, an intelligent soldier came up and reported to Yi Yu with his body hunched over. I'm reporting to Lord Yi Yu that Swordmaster Bickley is not completely dead. His body has been fished ashore by us. What do you think should be done with it? The intelligent soldier said respectfully to Yi Yu. Not dead yet. Yi Yu was slightly surprised. It seemed that the body of the celestial dragon was indeed very strong, and his attack could already be said to be very powerful, but this still did not completely kill the Swordmaster Bickley. Bring him over first and show us. Yi Yu suddenly became interested. This guy should be a noble among the nobles among the celestial dragons. I wonder how the celestial dragons, who have always been arrogant, will react after becoming a prisoner. After the people from the Whitebeard pirates heard this, they also gathered around. The celestial dragons in this world were too arrogant to them. They could see with their own eyes that the arrogant celestial dragons were interrogated by their captain Yi Yu. They still very curious. Just like that, Swordmaster Bickley was tied up and sent to Yi Yu. Although the current Swordmaster Bickley has returned to his original form and is no different from an ordinary human being, his entire body is in tatters, his clothes are full of holes, even most of his pants have disappeared, and his hair is even more damaged. A messy look. There is no longer the arrogance that he had when he first joined the Whitebeard pirates. Chapter 189 Fan Swordmaster. Swordmaster Piccolo looked around with his own eyes, and immediately felt humiliated. This group of people looked at him like monkeys. It was simply unbearable. You know, the celestial dragons of the Holy Land Mariajoya, look at the pet humans they raise, and have this expression. Lousy is a descendant of God, how dare you look at me like this? Hey, you low-class humans are looking at me like this. Do you know who I am? Lousy is a descendant of God. Kneel down. However, now, when facing this descendant of God, the celestial dragon, there is no trace of fear in the eyes of others. And you, Yi Yu, if you defeat me, you will be very powerful. I am different from ordinary Tianlong people. I am from Im's lineage, the Mobit tribe. You beat me like this, I will never let you go. Swordmaster Beasta became even more angry when he saw Yi Yu, and yelled at Yi Yu. Yi Yu narrowed his eyes. This guy really didn't understand the current situation. He was already like this. He dared to be arrogant with him. He was overestimating his abilities. In comparison, the second elder, Kaido and others are much more knowledgeable than this Bickley. Huh, Yi Yu snorted coldly. He had no time to get angry when dealing with a figure like Swordmaster Bickley. He could just leave this kind of thing to his younger brother to teach him personally. Hey, Ulki, I leave this guy to you, teach him a lesson, Yi Yu said directly to his younger brother, the strange monk Ulki, behind him. Yerki came to the front of Swordmaster Bickley, looked at Swordmaster Bickley, and flinched a little. At this time Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo stood up. Yerki, don't be afraid. This guy is also a human. It's nothing special. You are Yi Yu's subordinate now. You must not let your opponent look down on you. Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo showed a wicked smile. Although he is also a Tianlong, however, when his father and mother wanted to return to the Holy Land of Marijoa, they were rejected by the celestial dragons. After I became the 7 warlords of the sea, I gradually understood this matter. It was the senior officials of the Mobit tribe who initially opposed my return to the Holy Land of Marijoa, which led to the death of my family in this world. Although I didn't know that there is no such thing as Swordmaster Bickley, but Who knows that he happens to be a Mobit, he must take revenge. After hearing the words of Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo, the strange monk Yerki also figured it out. Yes, aren't the celestial dragons humans too? What's so great about it? At first, I didn't know that this guy was a sword master. At that time, wasn't he yelling at Bickley? In the end, the sword master Bickley wanted to take action, but wasn't he stopped by his own captain Yi Yu? Now that the bird sword master has become like this, I don't have to be afraid of him anymore. Thinking of this, the strange monk Yerki came directly in front of the sword master Bickley and raised his broad palm. Sword master Bickley's pupils dilated directly. He couldn't believe the scene in front of him. On the contrary, even the celestial dragons would not dare to do such a thing to his Mobits. This was a great disrespect to himself. How dare a tall and stout man who picks his feet and is not worthy of being his own slave dare to do this to me? Beast, you low-class human being, don't you want to live? Sword Master Bickley yelled at the weird monk Ulki. When the strange monk Ulki heard this, he immediately became unhappy and raised his palms a little higher again. You guy, the descendant of a bullshit god, haven't you been beaten to the pulp by our captain Yi Yu now? If I were you, I would never dare to say such arrogant words. I have to cure your temper. The strange monk Ulki roared loudly. After finishing speaking, the strange monk Yerki's broad palm was aimed at the cold and messy face of Swordmaster Bickley, and he slapped it with a slap. There was a crisp sound of snapping. Along with this wonderful sound, people around showed their eyes of satisfaction and joy. No matter who you are, as long as you dare to provoke the Whitebeard pirates or the men of the Whitebeard pirates, these people will not tolerate you, even if you are a celestial dragon. Swordmaster Bickley felt the burning pain on his cheek, and instantly felt humiliated. One by one, lower-class humans dared to hit him. Moreover, even if he is seriously injured now, he still has some domineering energy in his body, which is definitely enough to resist the attack of the big man in front of him. Why was this guy in front of me able to break through his own defense? Swordmaster Bickley had a confused look on his face, and his confused expression made the people around him smile instantly. Especially the Empress Hancock was secretly happy when she saw this evil Tianlong being treated like this under Yi Yu's order. After Yerki beat the Swordmaster Bickley, he felt the smiles of the people around him and felt extremely proud. The feeling of beating people was really good. Thinking of this, the strange monk Yerki raised his sword again. He slapped himself in the face and slapped the Swordmaster Bickley in front of him hard. Swordmaster Bickley's eyes are filled with bloodshot eyes. This B********* D still wants to come. There is no reason why I can't escape. What happened? Since you can't dodge, take the initiative to attack. Chapter 190 Everyone beats up the Juggernaut. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Hey, I said you are still addicted, right? You dare to beat up the Tianlong people. You are disrespectful. Lousy will kill you right now. Swordmaster Bickley yelled and took out the holy sword in his hand, ready to slash at the weird monk Yerki. However, just as he exerted force, he found that his body was completely out of control at this moment. The trajectory of the slap of the strange monk Ulki can be seen even if he doesn't need to see it, but his body just won't obey his orders. As soon as the domineering power in his body starts to be used, it will be dissolved by another invisible domineering power, and this terrifying Conqueror also directly controlled his whole body. Now I can't control my body at all. So Swordmaster Bickley looked aside again and smiled slightly, looking at the lively Yi Yu at the moment. Needless to say, among the people here, there is only one person who can make the Swordmaster Bickley unable to fight back, and that is the man in front of him. Although he looks carefree, his fighting power is surprisingly terrifying. In this world the only one in the world who can do this is Yi Yu. Facing the second slap from the weird monk Yerki, he was hit again. You, what the hell, try hitting me again. Swordmaster Bickley's cheeks were red and swollen this time, and he was even more angry inside. Yi Yu is such a bully. He didn't slap himself with his own hands, but let a weakling and inferior human being slap him. This is simply a shame and humiliation. I have really embarrassed the descendant of the celestial dragons, I am Sama. After hearing the words of the Swordmaster Bickley, the strange monk Ulki showed a suspicious expression. Now the strange monk Ulki has felt the Swordmaster, and the fear of the sky people no longer exists. Then he murmured to Swordmaster Bickley. This is the first time I've heard someone put forward such a perverted reason, so good. After saying that, the weird monk Yerki raised his palm and slapped the Swordmaster Bickley again. The crisp sound resounded throughout the world and continued continuously. During this period, Swordmaster Bickley wanted to pick up the holy sword in his hand several times, kill the big man in front of him and kill Yi Yu, but he had no choice. His body was tightly controlled and he could not resist at all. Not a cent. Yi Yu, UB***********D. At this time, Swordmaster Bickley's hair was always messy, and he cursed Yi Yu loudly in his heart, but all he got in reply was slap after slap. Finally, the strange monk Yerki stopped his hands, and then cursed secretly. His grandmas, my hands hurt from the beating. Quote. Swordmaster Bickley finally came out of this torture. Has it finally stopped? The answer is of course not. Hey, RG, you guy, I see you're quite strong, but why are you so boring? Let's replace it with the rest of you. Yi Yu said to him, who looks big and thick, but is so incompetent at beating someone. RG muttered. Then he handed over this important task to the other Whitebeard pirates who were watching the show. After hearing Yi Yu's words, the people around him became interested one by one, knitted the cuffs of their clothes, and showed eager expressions. After seeing everyone's reaction, Sword Master Bickley's expression immediately changed. Yi Yu, asked so many people to slap him. He wanted to live. Beat yourself to death. Sword Master Bickley's eyes were already covered with bloodshot eyes at this time, showing a frightened expression on his face, and he no longer had the usual arrogance of a celestial dragon. No, I was wrong, I will never dare to be arrogant again. Sword Master Bickley, with a messy face, shouted loudly, with a look of horror on his face. However, now that everyone in the Whitebeard Pirates wants to try out the feeling of being slapped by a celestial dragon, how can they pay attention to the roar of Sword Master Bickley? Therefore, everyone showed evil smiles to Sword Master Bickley one by one, and even the big white fang in their mouths was exposed. What awaits the Sword Master Bickley will be a painful torture. Sword Master Bickley started dancing, hoping that others would understand his expression and not do this to him, but what awaited him were slaps of different shapes. Ha ha ha, it feels so good to fight the celestial dragons. Whitebeard Edward Newgate was the first to say. The golden lion on the side also came over. That's not true, and the person being beaten this time is still a descendant of I am, ha ha ha. Golden Lion said with a laugh. As a violent element in this world, the Golden Lion has a more rebellious heart than the people around him. After seeing the fighting power of Yi Yu and many other masters, Golden Lion temporarily gave up his ambition to dominate the world, but this does not mean that his rebellious heart is gone. Now he still has the ambition to rebel against the world, and Bickley in front of him can let him vent his inner feelings. Bang, bang, bang. The Golden Lion slapped the Sword Master Bickley several times, and his own hands were sore from the slaps. However, the Golden Lion was indeed very happy in his heart, and even began to fantasize about the scene of slapping I am after he dominates the world. Although the people around them do not have the ambition to dominate the world, their thoughts are not much different from those of the Golden Lion. The guy in front of me is the strongest among the celestial dragons in the past 800 years, and he is also a Mu, a descendant of that god in this world. If you can slap such a person, you will be able to brag for the rest of your life. Just like that, bang 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 bang. The sound continued until everyone was tired of fanning and stopped one by one. At this time, Sword Master Bickley's entire face was red and swollen. At first, Sword Master Bickley would shout twice, but as his injuries became more and more serious, Sword Master Bickley's cheeks became more and more swollen, and finally even his lips were swollen from being slapped. So until the end, Sword Master Bickley was whimpering, but no one could tell what Sword Master Bickley was talking about. Looking at the Sword Master Bickley, whose entire face was swollen like a pig's head, Yi Yu slowly stood in front of Bickley. At this time, Bickley was half lying on the ground, with a messy face. How about it, Bickley? So now you still think that because you have the blood of a celestial dragon, you are superior? Do you still dare to speak to me in a disrespectful tone? Yi Yu stood in front of Bickley and murmured. Sword Master Bickley couldn't say anything at all at this time, sobbed and nodded crazily. I was afraid that if Yi Yu in front of me misunderstood what I meant and let everyone punch and kick me again, I really couldn't bear it. Looking at the Sword Master Bickley who was nodding like a chicken pecking at rice, Yi Yu knew that this guy had completely succumbed to his power. Chapter 191 Conqueror's upgrade to 20,000 points. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Yi Yu is very satisfied with Sword Master Bickley's attitude. He came to the front of the Sword Master Bickley, with a smile on his face, and then took out the Sword Master's holy sword directly in front of the Sword Master. This sword is quite good. I'll give it to you. It's a pity. Why don't you just give it to us? Yi Yu said meanly to the Sword Master Bickley. After Bickley heard this, his whole face instantly became much older. He is a man who loves his sword as much as his life. It would be more uncomfortable to take away the holy sword that Lord I Am personally rewarded him than to kill himself. If you want to say what you really think in your heart, then you are 10,000 times unwilling. Noticing the slightest hesitation under Sword Master Bickley's swollen pig head, Yi Yu snorted. This frightened Bickley to the point where he immediately gave up. He couldn't do it even if he didn't want to in this state. If he didn't want to, who knows, Yi Yu would continue to come up with bad ideas and torture himself. In the end, isn't the weapon still Yi Yu's? Sword Master Bickley himself was not a fool. After seeing Yi Yu's impatient expression, he immediately nodded and hunched over, mumbling with his swollen mouth, and then nodded crazily. Yi Yu smiled slightly. It seemed that the bones of Tianlong people were really soft. After playing with it twice, Yi Yu directly gave the weapon to Mahawk. Mahawk, I give you this weapon, which should allow you to continue moving forward on the path of swordsmanship. Yi Yu said lightly, without any hint of attachment to the holy sword. I don't need this kind of weapon now. I am so powerful that I no longer need the blessing of any weapon. Sword Master Bickley's eyes widened. He originally thought that this weapon must be given to Yi Yu, but he never expected that Yi Yu would directly give this weapon to his younger brother. The previous owner of this weapon was Popos, who was once on the same level as Lord I Am. And Yi Yu doesn't care about this weapon so much. Could it be that? Sword Master Bickley's eyes became serious. Could it be that Yi Yu's strength was still not what he had seen? Yi Yu was even more powerful than he imagined. When Mihawk heard that Yi Yu was going to hand over such a terrifying weapon to him, he immediately shed tears of gratitude. Mr. Yi Yu, in order to teach me the way of swordsmanship, you gave me such a valuable thing. Mihawk said gratefully. Yi Yu secretly said that it was not good, and he did not want to tangle with Mihawk anymore. This thing is of no use to me, so you can keep it for yourself, Mihawk. Guys, push down Sword Master Beakley. After giving all the instructions, Yi Yu just dodged and left here. He was looking forward to his reward and had no time to talk to Mihawk's mother-in-law and mother-in-law here. In this way, even the swordsman Beakley, the descendant of the Tianlong god, was directly sent to Yi Yu's free labor team with everyone tied up. As soon as the Sword Master arrived, the entire coalition army fell into a subtle atmosphere. You must know that the Sword Master Beakley is Cyborg Kong, the boss of the Five Elders. According to normal principles, even if he is Yi Yu like them, prisoners, they still have to show respect to the Juggernaut. But the embarrassment is that the Sword Master just now said that he would kill all the people who saw his true face. In a sense, they are not superiors and subordinates, but they're enemies. But this enemy's combat effectiveness is higher than theirs. And Sword Master Beakley was also extremely embarrassed in his heart. As a high-ranking celestial dragon, he made a fool of himself this time, which really made a big deal out of him. It didn't matter that he made a fool of himself in front of the Whitebeard pirates. The key was to kneel down even during these normal days. He made a fool of himself in front of his subordinates before he even had the chance to flatter him. Sword Master Beakley really felt that he didn't even have a place to put his old face. And my face is still swollen like a pig's head. I can't even speak without sobbing, not to mention how embarrassed I am. At this time, Yi Yu couldn't care less about how Sword Master Beakley got along with the people of the allied forces. Now Yi Yu couldn't wait to open his system and receive his system rewards. Sure enough, the reward this time was very generous. After opening his system, a line of red font appeared directly in his mind. Ding, congratulations to host for defeating the celestial dragon Sword Master Beakley. The reward for host has been upgraded to 20,000 Overlord points. All Devil Fruit abilities have been raised to the limit. Host. Yi Yu. Conqueror's attribute points. 20,000. Devil Fruit abilities. Earthquake ability, Extreme Magma ability, Extreme Search ability, Extreme Shining Fruit, Extreme Frozen Fruit, Extreme Appearance Fruit, Extreme Phoenix ability, Extreme Thunder Fruit, Extreme Surgery Fruit, limit. Devil Fruit. Tanuki Fruit. 3 artificial devil fruits, African Hyena Fruit. Skills. Flash 100 meters, Conqueror's passive defense shield Shinra Tensai, self-created Conqueror's fusion gold Conqueror's field. Items. Healing medicine, ham, burger, coke, red wine, turkey, salad. Looking at his system, Yi Yu felt that his body was full of power again. Whether it was the devil fruit ability or his own conquerors, there was a direct qualitative leap. At this time, Yi Yu knew very well in his heart that his strength was more than just a little bit stronger. Even if it is an ordinary attack, 20,000 points of conquerors plus the ultimate devil fruit ability, coupled with the fusion of conquerors, you can imagine how terrifying your combat power will be. Just when Yi Yu was immersed in his own power, a guy with a pineapple head staggered up to Yi Yu, holding a wine bottle and smelling of alcohol. Needless to say, this man was the Whitebeard pirate. Marco, the captain of the regiment. Captain Yi Yu, come and have a drink. Ha ha ha, as long as you are here to fight for our Whitebeard pirates, I think it won't take long for our pirates to become the true overlord of this sea. Ha 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 ha. Marco burped his wine and said with a smile on his face. Chapter 192 Yi Yu changes the whole world. After saying that, Marco put his arm directly on Yi Yu's shoulders. Yi Yu shook his head helplessly. This guy Marco. Immediately afterwards, Foil Beasta, Diamond Josie and others, each holding a huge wine glass in their hands, came to Yi Yu and dragged Yi Yu to attend today's celebration dinner. Really, Yi Yu, you are too lazy. You are the protagonist of today's dinner, how can you be late? Fire Fist Ace on the side noticed the situation on Yi Yu's side, and also had a cup in his mouth. A large piece of meat came in front of Yi Yu. Yi Yu shook his head helplessly. You guys. In this way, Yi Yu also joined the dinner party, and Yi Yu discovered an interesting thing, that is, his drinking capacity is constantly increasing with the increase of conquerors. Although the system did not explain it, but in Yi Yu seems to be a secret little benefit. Facing everyone's invitation, Yi Yu showed a confident smile. Now his conquerors has directly exceeded 20,000 points. His drinking capacity has also increased exponentially. This time, no matter how many people want to drink him down, you are not afraid of yourself. Come on, let's not go back until we get drunk today. Anyone who was dissatisfied with the last time we drank, come here without any coward. This time I will challenge you. Yi Yu also rarely showed his bold side, talking to everyone drink heavily and eat meat. The whole night was spent in laughter. Just when Yi Yu was holding a celebration banquet for the Whitebeard pirates, and everyone was enjoying themselves, a terrifying figure among the flowers woke up from his sleep, and scanned the surroundings with his sharp eyes. So cold. Even the Sword Master Beakley has fallen into trouble. I thought that boy had the blessing of the Holy Sword, and it would be no problem to take down Yi Yu. But looking at it now, it seems something went wrong. In the past 800 years, you are still the number one person, Yi Yu. You can actually let me take action myself. I am said coldly. Said. In the past 800 years, even if a once-in-a-hundred-year strong man appeared, he could basically solve it by relying on the five elders and the swordmaster Bickley. When had he ever taken action? This time, a 20-year-old guy actually defeated the strongest member of his lineage in the past 800 years among the Tianlong people. It seems that this boy Yi Yu should not be underestimated. I felt a sense of crisis for once. This kid can't be kept. He must be killed as soon as possible. An evil idea is getting stronger and stronger in Im's heart. At this moment, a person with the same sharp eyes as Im appeared in front of Im and knelt on the spot. Lijuadun, how did you go about the task I gave you? Im said expressionlessly. The man named Rito Shield has the same body and face as Bickley. He is the twin brother of the sword master Bickley. Although his own strength is still far away from Bickley, he is also rare in this world. His brother Bickley's mistake this time might make Lord Im angry, so Lijuadun seemed to be very careful at this time. I'm reporting to Lord Im, I've finished what you asked me to do. Lijuadun knelt on the ground and spoke respectfully and cautiously. Then a group of people came and brought in a man in a red cloak. This man's body was full of shocking scars. This man was none other than the supergiant who was released by Yi Yu in the great prison under the sea. Criminal, Red Count. Im did not even look at the Red Earl, but directly stretched out his palm. After Lijuadun saw it, he stood up in a hurry, half-crouched in front of Im, and gave the key fragment in his hand to Im. Im opened his own ability, felt the authenticity of the key fragments, and finally let out a slow breath. Just like that, Im stood up directly and flew into the air. It wasn't until Lord Im left that everyone slowly stood up. At this time, the people who had personally escorted the Red Count just now began to ask Lijuadun. Lord Sword King, look, what should we do with this person next? Sword King Lijuadun smiled contemptuously. This Red Earl is really stupid, he dares to touch Uranus's idea. Since the fragment has been confirmed to be authentic by Lord Im, then this Red Earl has no other value. After saying this, Sword King Lijuadun showed an evil smile. Kill him directly, but, you should be careful, pull him out and kill him again. This is the place where Im lives among the flowers. Don't dirty it, Sword King Lijuadun murmured. In this way, the Red Count, who was seriously injured and could not even speak, was directly carried out by people. There was only one fate waiting for him, and that was death. Just after everyone left, Sword King Lijuadun narrowed his eyes and began to talk to himself. Is this guy Yi Yu really so powerful? I really didn't expect that Lord Im not only went there in person, but also brought Uranus with him. You have to know Skynet, but it was the weapon used by Lord Yimu when he fought against his mortal enemy, Bobos. Yi Yu actually reminded Lord Yimu of Popos, the man who was killed by Lord Yimu thousands of years ago. The guy who was your lifelong enemy. Pipe. Just when Im came out from among the flowers and flew in the sky above the entire holy land of Marijoa. The celestial dragons of the holy land Marijoa widened their eyes one by one. The character who appears among the flowers is unmistakable. Apart from God Im in this world, there will be no other person. That ancestor actually took action. Could it be said that the strongest swordsman of our Tianlong people failed? Some older and knowledgeable Tianlong people said in shock. Sword Master, even Master Sword Master failed. People in the entire holy land of Marijoa began to say with emotion. If all the speculations are true, then the world is becoming more and more turbulent, and now only Im can save them. On the other side, the entire world is also having heated discussions about Yi Yu. Hey, I don't know if you've heard that there was such a big commotion yesterday, it was like a natural disaster, but it was Yi Yu who was fighting with someone else. What? Are you kidding? A mere manpower can actually reach such a scale. Is this still a human being? It's still not a human being. You have to know that Yi Yu is a person who fights against the entire world. It's not surprising that he can cause natural disasters. Then I'm really curious, who was fighting Yi Yu yesterday? I have a relative who works at the world headquarters. I heard that this time the world government sent the strongest man in 800 years. But even so, he still lost to Yi Yu in the end. After hearing this sentence, the people around were shocked again. If what was said is correct, then this world is probably going to change. In the future, this world may not be the world of Tianlong people at all, but the world of Yi Yu. Everyone is still looking forward to the changes in this world. After all, the whole world has long been dissatisfied with the Tianlong people. If it weren't for the fact that they were threatened by force by the lackeys of the celestial dragons, I think most people would rise up and resist to the end. In a certain area of New World, a one-eyed skull pattern is constantly swaying in the sea breeze. The red-haired Shanks stood directly in front of the deck, staring in the direction of the Whitebeard pirates. I'm afraid the world is about to change, Beckman. Shanks murmured to Beckman beside him. Beckman, still holding a cigar in his mouth, came to Shanks. Shanks, do you mean Yi Yu? Beckman asked suspiciously, very curious about Shanks' sudden words. This world must have happened again since Yi Yu defeated the World United Army. What happened? Chapter 193 I am taking action. Just now, the red-haired Shanks had been thinking about something after receiving the news from the Draco Intelligence Department at the World Headquarters. After hearing Beckman's question, Shanks did not answer directly. Instead, he looked into the distance, breathed out slightly, and finally spoke slowly. Just this morning, I got the news that Im's personal bodyguard, Swordmaster Bickley, was also defeated by Yi Yu. Red-haired Shanks narrowed his eyes and said. Sword Master Bickley. Beckman asked suspiciously again. Beckman really didn't know much about Sword Master Bickley. The people around him all gathered around the red-haired Shanks. Their eyes had told them that they were eager to know the answer to the red-haired Shanks. The red-haired Shank's lips moved slightly and he swallowed a mouthful of his own saliva. You don't know that Sword Master Bickley is also normal. Red-haired Shanks murmured. He is Im's personal bodyguard, and he also has a title. He is known as the strongest man in the 800 years of the Celestial Dragons, and he is also the successor of Im. Shanks directly told everyone the secret of Sword Master Bickley. After hearing this, the people around were completely shocked. The successor of Im, they had heard the red-haired Shanks say before that the so-called god actually refers to a human being, and this person's name is Im. And, the guy who can become the successor of such a god must be above the 5 elders in strength. And, such a terrifying existence was defeated by Yi Yu. Beckman suddenly realized something, and his expression became a little solemn. Wait, you mean, in this world now, the only one who can defeat Yi Yu is the legendary god, right? The big cigar slipped from Beckman's mouth. He stood down, his eyes were even a little ferocious, and he spoke with a very exaggerated expression. The people around him also reacted. If things continue at this rate, Yi Yu will really overthrow all the gods in this world. The key is that Yi Yu is only about 20 years old, and he has only become famous in this sea for less than 2 months. Now that I think about it, when Yi Yu first became famous, he wiped out the Blackbeard pirates. Unexpectedly, time has just advanced 2 months, and now Yi Yu can become the only being in the world who can compete with God. Got it. New era, old era. Beckman muttered to himself, lost in thought. People around him also expressed their feelings towards Yi Yu. Speaking of which, Yi Yu, this guy, both in terms of strength and growth rate, are so exaggerated. Jesus Bu also had a look of emotion on his face. The big fat man holding a chicken leg in his hand, Larch Road, had a white light reflected from his small black sunglasses. If you think about it now, Captain Shanks, your original decision was really right. If we did not remain neutral, if we succumbed to the power of the world government and suppressed the Whitebeard pirates, I am afraid that we would end up with Kai like that idiot. He must have become a prisoner now. Reikalu trembled and murmured. When he said this, everyone was silent again. Rockiro was right. Although his pirate group was stronger than Kaido's beast's pirate group, it was not much stronger. If we follow Kaido, Big Mom and the other idiots 4 emperors to join forces to fight against Yi Yu, I am afraid that the final outcome will be to become a prisoner of the Whitebeard pirates. At that time, Whitebeard will not be able to laugh his own pirates to death. Stay neutral, Shanks murmured, followed by a faint smile. By the way, there is another important thing. I haven't told you yet. This news this morning shocked me a lot. It's still news about Yi Yu. Red-haired Shanks said. Oh, the news that can shock the red-haired Captain Shanks so much, or the news about Yi Yu who shocked the whole world, then it must be correct, it must be a huge level of news. Everyone raised their ears and prepared to hear what kind of news it was. Even Captain Shanks would be so shocked. Shanks looked at everyone and smiled helplessly. Speaking of remaining neutral, don't worry, if nothing goes wrong, today is our last day to remain neutral. Red-haired Shanks looked at the sea in the distance, he said helplessly with a wry smile. The last day to be neutral. The people around were a little confused for a moment, not understanding what their captain meant. However, Shanks did not answer them immediately. Instead, he smiled mysteriously and looked at the guy with the highest IQ in his red-haired pirate group, Ben Beckman. Beckman just thought for a while and then widened his eyes. Then he looked at the red-haired Shanks, his lips trembled, his face was dull, and he finally started to speak. Shanks, you mean, Im is out, Beckman said in disbelief. Im, that guy who was called a god. Are you about to fight Yi Yu so suddenly? Chapter 194 The Arrival of Im. Everyone in the red-haired pirate group looked at Shanks one by one. It was obvious that they wanted to know whether the news Beckman guessed was correct. If it is right, it would be too terrifying. Is a 20-year-old guy going to fight against the gods in this world? This is history, and it is the history of changing dynasties. A major event that only happens once in 1,000 years. The red-haired Shanks smiled slightly and gave his answer. That's right, Im is going to take action. The news I just got this morning must be delayed. Maybe Im-sama has arrived in the area of the Whitebeard pirates now. Red-haired Shanks had a ferocious look on his face and lowered his voice before speaking. Sri Lanka. After hearing the answer from the red-haired Shanks, although they had expected it before, they were still very surprised. After all, this was not a small piece of news. A very big secret, if it were simply sold to a news agency, say less and it's worth 100 billion berries. The entire red-haired pirate group froze in place one by one, swallowing their own saliva, and the scene fell into a very silent atmosphere. Looking at everyone, the red-haired Shanks murmured again. A war that will shock the entire world is about to begin. ... The Whitebeard pirates, everyone drank for a long time yesterday, and most of them haven't woken up yet. However, Yi Yu's free laborers got up early in the morning. There was no way, who made them prisoners of the Whitebeard pirates? Yi Yu has regulations. He has to get up at 5 o'clock every morning to work for Yi Yu, and the amount of labor for each person is stipulated every day. If he can't finish the work, he has to finish the overtime work at night. These prisoners have experienced the feeling of staying up late and working overtime before, but they don't want to experience that feeling at all. The people around them are going well. They have long been accustomed to this kind of life, and even, some people, such as Iron Fist Garp, also like this kind of life and regard it as physical exercise. However, there is one person who is very uncomfortable with it. This person is none other than the Sword Master Bickley, who was just arrested yesterday. At this time, the Sword Master Bickley also had a swollen head like a pig's head, and his face was full of confusion. He, a high-ranking celestial dragon, would not dress himself until noon with the help of his servants. Get up and eat. Today was a good day. Early in the morning, I was woken up by people in the laboratory construction factory. Then one person gave himself a shovel and was pulled to start working. Although Sword Master Bickley's body was full of sleepiness, he had to work with 100 times more energy. There was no other way. If he didn't get up and go to work, he might be pinned to the ground by a group of people again. I was rubbing myself crazy. My face had just subsided a little, and I didn't want to be slapped by them again. Thinking of this, Sword Master Bickley even felt a little sad. He was also looking forward to his previous life in his heart, thinking about escaping from this ghost place all the time. His eyes were paying close attention to Yi Yu's whereabouts. Relying on his own strength, even if he is shackled by Heilushi, as long as Yi Yu is not around, he has complete confidence to escape from this ghost place. But Yi Yu, an otaku, wants Yi Yu to leave the area of the Whitebeard pirates and let him travel or something like that, which is even harder than killing Yi Yu. This is very painful for Sword Master Bickley, who has been cursing in his heart. Yi Yu, I beg you, please stop playing games in that dormitory, just go out for a while. Go out and see the new environment. Doesn't it smell good to him to breathe in the fresh air? When Sword Master Bickley was at a loss, with a sad look on his face, Sword Master Bickley suddenly felt a powerful aura in the sky, coming towards him. Even the second elder who was immersed in work beside him showed a strange look. Could this familiar feeling, this terrifying conqueror's dominance be? The two looked at each other one after another, and both found their own answers from each other's faces. There is no mistake, this person is their master, the legendary descendant of God, Lord I Am actually came here in person. The second elder's face was exaggerated, he looked at the sky with an incredible expression, and his lips trembled slowly. This person, could it be said that Lord I Am came here in person? As soon as these words came out, the people in the coalition army who were working looked to the sky one after another, and they were all surprised. Many of them have only recently heard of the existence of Lord Yimu. This is the god they have protected for so many years. Naturally, everyone is still a little curious about this mysterious Lord I Am. And Sword Master Bickley also showed an expectant look. Great. He could finally be rescued. He couldn't stay in such a tortuous place for a minute. Lord I Am, hurry up and save me. Sword Master Bickley shouted to the sky. I saw a meteor appear in the sky, which was almost the same as the appearance of Sword Master Bickley. However, I Am was not knocked down directly like Bickley, but soared directly into the sky. I Am naturally heard Sword Master Bickley's cry for help. I Am above the sky, his eyes were still so cold, he glanced below him, and then an extremely old, indistinguishable voice came over. Bickley, you idiot, and you are all a bunch of idiots, you still have to ask me to take action personally, this is your shame. I Am said to the coalition forces through his conquerors, and it was transmitted to everyone. Above the ears, the surrounding coalition forces all lowered their heads after hearing this. I Am snorted at everyone, showed a disdainful expression, then gathered his conquerors at his throat and continued to transmit the sound. As your god, you dare to offend me like this. Now I will put an end to you, the Whitebeard pirates, in the name of God. Chapter 195 Confrontation with I Am. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. A powerful sound swept over instantly. Unlike the previous sound transmission, this time the sound transmission actually included Conqueror's attack. The invisible Conquerors is attached to the invisible sound. This weird method makes the sound become a method of attack. The members of the Whitebeard pirates who were soundly sleeping on the bed felt dizzy after hearing Lord Im's voice, as if they had been attacked by some conquerors. They hurriedly took off their shoes on the boat, however, they felt that there seemed to be several mountains pressing on their bodies, and their bodies became extremely stiff. The Buffalo Atmos relied on his strong body to stand up forcefully, showing a puzzled look. This voice sounds so uncomfortable to people, and this person said he is I Am, is it true? Also, why do I feel like I've been possessed by Conqueror's hockey? Buffalo Atmos was mostly sober from the wine, and the people around him were basically similar to Buffalo Atmos, and they were all stumbling. Everything staggered. Yi Yu, who was in his dormitory, naturally noticed Im's voice and opened his eyes from his bed. Yi Yu narrowed his eyes in a rare moment, showing a solemn expression. This attack method is Conqueror's sound control. It requires extremely powerful Conquerors and Conqueror's accuracy to be able to do it. I have just mastered this Conqueror's attack method not long ago. If you say so, you can't be wrong. The person who came can't be anyone else, it's definitely I Am. Yi Yu murmured. Just from a face-to-face meeting, Yi Yu had already roughly guessed the strength of his opponent. There is no doubt that this person's strength is many times stronger than that of Sword Master Beasta. Oh no, this attack method will cause damage to ordinary minions. Thinking of this, Yi Yu directly used his gold conquerors to open a city wall again, completely isolating the people on the Whitebeard pirates from the outside world. A golden domineering city wall rose from the ground, and all the sound waves released by Mu were blocked from the outside. After seeing the scene in front of him, IM was not angry. The main purpose of coming here was not to deal with the minions of the Whitebeard pirates. His purpose was to kill Yi Yu, and since the city wall had appeared, that also proves that Yi Yu has noticed him and will appear soon. Sure enough, after the Golden Conqueror's wall appeared, Yi Yu also used the same Conqueror's power control method to directly fly into the air and stand at the same height as IM. The surrounding Whitebeard pirates, after being rescued by Yi Yu, also walked out of their dormitories one after another, looking blankly at the sky one by one. Is this IM? The attack just now was caused by him, right? I didn't expect that IM would just come over and kill him after so long. I thought that a guy who likes to hide behind things like IM should be a sinister guy, but I didn't expect that he would come over like this single-handedly. Defeat IM. We, the Whitebeard pirates, will be able to rule this world. The pirates looked at the two people in the sky and began to have a heated discussion. Most of them, because of Yi Yu's previous victories, had boosted their morale, and they still had great confidence in Yi Yu defeating Yi Yu. As for the senior leaders of the Whitebeard pirates, typical representatives are Whitebeard Edward Newgate, as well as masters such as Golden Lion Shiki and Hawkeye Mahawk. But it was rare to see an extremely solemn expression. IM's voice just now shocked them greatly. Although it was difficult for them to know the true strength of the person in front of them based on their knowledge, there was one thing they could feel as the strong men in this world. That is, IM's strength is absolutely terrifying and boundless. Even from the contact with the voice just now, they can determine that the strength of this guy Yimu is even slightly superior to Yi Yu in terms of conquerors. One can imagine what a terrifying enemy this is. The tense atmosphere spread throughout the Whitebeard pirates area. Even the prisoners of the Whitebeard pirates all looked extremely nervous. You know, this battle is related to their destiny. As the ruling tool of the Tianlong people, they still hope that Yimu will win. Especially the sword master Bickley was very excited at this time. Lord IM, you must avenge me and kill this boy Yi Yu. Sword Master Bickley shouted loudly from below. It can be seen that the swelling on Sword Master Bickley's face has not healed yet, and he looks very funny when calling Lord IM. After hearing Sword Master Bickley's cry, IM frowned and stared at Sword Master Bickley with a pair of cold eyes. Shut up, you useless thing. You have ruined all the face of our Tianlong people. I gave you the ability to live forever. I didn't expect you, a fool, to even be a mere brat. I can't even kill them. IM cursed at Sword Master Bickley. After hearing Lord Im's words, Sword Master Bickley lowered his head in an instant and did not dare to speak anymore. He still knew Lord Im's temper. Even though his status was noble, but in front of Lord Im still, it doesn't even count. As long as Lord Im is unhappy, he can kill himself instantly. Regardless of the fact that he and Master Yimu both belong to the same race, Yimu is definitely capable of killing his own people. He knows this very well, and he has seen many people killed by Yimu in the past 800 years. Clansmen. Then Sword Master Bickley was so frightened that he blocked his mouth with his hands and no longer dared to speak out. The second elder on the side saw this scene and hurriedly closed his mouth. The words he had not spoken before were forcefully forced back. Above the sky, Yi Yu and Yi Mu looked at each other. Im's dark golden eyes stared at Yi Yu, and a cold killing intent came from Master Im's body. The corner of his mouth curled slightly, and Im slowly spoke. Ha ha ha, I really didn't expect that. You are not weak in strength, and you actually created such a huge golden conqueror's wall casually. Im's old voice came again. Yi Yu still looked calm, not feeling a trace of discomfort or nervousness at all because the other person was a so-called god in this world. Instead, he moved his body slightly forward and spoke slowly, imitating Im's tone. Your strength is not bad, IM. You can actually attach conquerors to the sound, and you can also cause a certain amount of conqueror's damage to the enemy. Yi Yu muttered, squinting his eyes.